Okay, welcome to SABADO Sessions Podcast. My name is Joey. I've got Juriton as well, and collaborating with Majid and with Ishak, the best 59s Britain has ever produced. And today's guest, we have Chance Mitchell. So welcome to the show, bro. Thanks for jumping on. But first and foremost, how are you? What's been happening? Just give us a little insight on how you are right now.
So I'm good. We're prepping for the UK Arnold. So this is the second international comp that I've done. The fifth time I've done the Arnold. So I did the squat challenge, the double body weight for reps, and then competed at the Arnold, the Pro American, and the Raw Challenge in the US. This is the first one overseas, so I'm kind of excited about it.
Oh, cool. All right. So I know you've been on a ton of podcasts. If everyone that knows you and knows you well, been following you for a while from when you were with Kelly Burke to all the other podcasts you're doing now. We're going to try our best to not so much touch on what's already been touched before. But first things first, I want to let one of the guys chime in with some questions. Durance, if you want to go first.
Yeah. I had so many questions, but since you mentioned about that double squat challenge, because I'm a squatter myself, without my squat, I'm nothing, right? I'm not like you. Me, without my squat, I might just stay at home. So how did you feel about that double squat challenge? How many did you get? 19, I think, right?
No, I did 24 and 25 with double body weight.
Jeez, how did you feel at the end? And how did you prep for that?
It's weird because you would think you're trying to do this AMRAP challenge that you want to get your conditioning, pretty high to manage that. But honestly, I think that's the more shitty way to go about it. I think it's probably better just to focus on getting your 1RM up, and then you can do a little bit higher back down sets, but you're not pushing super, super hard on AMRAPs that much. I don't think it's worth it because it is still a strength-based challenge. It's not quite as much of a conditioning challenge as people think. And so I made that mistake the first time. And the second time I did much better without doing as crazy of sets. I was doing sets of 15 with 180, 185, 190, shit like that, the first time around. And, I was getting good at doing stuff like that, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference when you get to 20 to 24 or 5 reps. Your body is just shutting down. Your legs just shut off. It's, I'm sure you guys have done a 10 rep set or 11 rep set and you're okay, I could go another 4 or 5 reps or 6 maybe. And you start doing it. And then once you get to those reps, your legs just stop working and you just can't do anything. It's such a weird feeling because you're okay, it's easy. What I do with those types of sets, you count out, I'll count to 3 and I'll go 1, 2, 3. And then in my head, I'm not thinking about okay, I'm on the 3rd rep. I'm going to another 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, if I can just get another 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and all of a sudden you're at 20 something, right? It's a weird thing to set up for, but there's definitely multiple ways you can go about it. It's fun. Obviously, it's a weird kind of thing that not everybody really cares about, but it's also something that is kind of ridiculous to even try, right? There's nothing wrong with, if you do 22 reps versus 25, oh, you had a bad day, right? But in powerlifting, if you have a 20 kilos off your best total, it's an awful day, right? But no one really cares. You did 22, 23, 24. Who cares? I think the first time I did way too many AMRAPs, and I did AMRAPs leading into the meet. And then I kind of took a smaller deload and then still wasn't ready. And I did 240 for 14. I did 227 for 17 or 18. Shit like that.
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
But
wow.
I'm gonna go from one question to jump to another. So I was gonna ask real quick was that were you getting coached through this through these AMRAP sets? Because I feel as though I don't know, the frequency of AMRAPs would take a toll on your body, right? So were you being coached through this?
No, I mean I've been doing my own stuff since 2018.
Okay.
Cool. Before that, I worked with TSA, Eric Bodhorn.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's it's also something brand new that it's very difficult to program something like that and do it right.
Exactly.
Right. I have a good tolerance for volume, just work in general. So I can push myself and kind of know more than a coach, right? Like if you say, for example, you start with a new coach, you have to learn all these different things. You have to figure out how the athlete responds. Even like people that are a little bit more aggressive, they would not know what to do with me, right? Like they would just think, okay, this is like pushing. It's like, no, I can keep going. And no one will know except me, because it would be very difficult to like, hey, yeah, we're going to have an AMRAP on squat, but before you do the AMRAP, you're going to do 4 sets of 8 on squat. And, it's going to be really easy. And then like, no one's going to be able to do that. I will know I can do that. But
I mean, you're being coached with Nori now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Say that again.
Who are you being coached now? Sorry.
You
don't coach yourself, don't you?
No, I've written my own training since 2018.
Yeah.
Oh, so you haven't had a coach? So not since TSA. I mean.
Correct.
Okay. Cool. Whoa. All right. Fair enough.
I mean, again, right? That's really impressive there. But is it, as a coach, right? Chance, is it something that you could recommend to a newcomer coming to powerlifting? That type of training?
This specific thing for like the squat challenge?
Yeah, I mean, just that the AMRAP, because I do. I mean, I think a few weeks ago I hit 250 for 10, and when I finished that was with Joey. Joey, by the way, is my coach. So I almost died. Literally, I almost felt like, cool, 999, I'm going. So is this something that you will recommend for a newcomer to do?
I think some athletes are predisposed to injury risk when you get to that breaking point. Some don't. Like depending on the athlete, some like get to that 1-2 RIR and it's a risk. And every time they get into that range, you have to weigh it out. Some people don't, right? Some people are just a little bit more durable in that sense. And for those athletes, I think maybe not necessarily doing it every other week or every week or anything like that, but I definitely think there's a place for AMRAPs. You want to think about it like this: is the less moving pieces, the less opportunity for something to go wrong, essentially. So for bench, right? Bench is relatively safe. If you have like a good arch, you're very efficient. All these other steps in there can make it a little less risky. And if your squat is like yours and you have a very strong squat or affinity towards squat, I can see it being effective. It's just, again, that weighing out the risk.
I'm actually happy you mentioned bench, because obviously there's a controversy going on right now, and I'm hoping to open the floor of discussion to Ishak and Majid. Obviously Majid has put up like little polls here and there on the Instagrams. Ishak has like said his piece as well. I forget what was it, Ishak, that you said again about the bench rules changing?
Oh, so the bench rules changing. Basically, I put up like a poll to my audience to see like if there is a rule change, what they think should be the way to be implemented forward. So the most popular one was the suggestion which Pana suggested, which I think is probably the best one as well, where you have basically your elbows, the bottom of your elbows being below the top of your shoulder, which is like a range of motion requirement. Then there was others like the Paralympic style benching, which they do in Paralympics with your feet completely up, which is like the Lawson press. And then what was the other one? The grip width rule, which was the least popular, and I think that's basically the least practical as well, because you literally need, a Lego to create new bars with different rings, because I don't know how they police that without actual specific rings on the bars.
What's your take on that, Chance?
Yeah.
It's so hard to do this right. And I guess my biggest issue, because when we have our shoulders pinned back or we're getting more of an arch, we're being a little bit more efficient, it protects our shoulders. So that's a huge thing that we have to really focus around. And that's how come we can handle more volume, more intensity. That's how we can be, again, we kind of go to the injury risk here. With bench, it's usually way less risky to bump the frequency, bump the volume, bump the intensity. A lot of people can handle high amounts of that. And I think typically whenever you flatten out the bench or you add more range of motion, that's where we're looking at shoulder issues, where the shoulder is so much more in play. And how many people have, sticky shoulders, or they have like popping and clicking in their shoulders. For me, if I were to have to do this and have to switch over, which would be what we do, I would probably still bench with at least somewhat of an arch in training. And then like when I get closer to comp, I would flatten out and do like a couple lighter stuff that's not super, super taxing, and then kind of just save it for meet day as much as I could, because I think it's just such a risk. And for me, I don't do a lot of shoulder work because I have like very finicky shoulders.
Have you guys seen any of like ridiculous ideas that people come out with just an off chance? Because I saw one. Yeah. Sorry, go Mo.
I think the best thing to do is just take out bench.
I think replace it with weight picks.
There's so much argument and conversation going around there. It's just like, let's just take it out and let's just do squat and deadlift.
No, if you do that, people at Enna will throw a party. No.
Yeah, I'm for it, because it's like that makes the least amount of my total, and if you take off a percentage of that, I mean, it's gonna affect the other guys way more than me. So shit, go for it.
Man, I did see one. Someone posted like a ridiculous, but I thought it was kind of smart at the same time. Was that there has to just tie a ribbon in the middle of the bar up to a specific length, and everyone has to adhere. Anything less than that ribbon, then the arch is too high, or the range of motion is too little. And I thought that could maybe work. It's low cost.
Me, what I've seen, what I think probably will be the most practical one, people that for those that have money, is someone just suggested for men to have pecs implant and women to start having boob implants. Because the bigger is your pecs, the bigger is your boobs, that flat back won't affect you. So I think that's a bit practical right there. So we all have to turn up in Turkey next year.
What?
I'll get mine pre-done in Turkey.
That's where the surgery is cheaper, isn't it?
Okay, so let's go back to focus, because you mentioned Arnold's chance. Obviously now the list, I believe, is finalized. Correct me if I'm wrong, Durance.
Yeah, it's finalized, I think.
Prelim is finalized. Yeah.
Prelim. So obviously, as the weeks went by from when you last did your the podcast you've done, more names have been added. One of the biggest names that Durance told me about was Anatoly. You know, everyone, I believe everyone here has seen us training in a bomb-proof bunker, I believe. Any
bunker, bomb shelter, or whatever.
Yeah, bomb shelter even. So any thoughts of that? Because obviously he wasn't at Worlds this year, but he's coming for the Arnolds.
So I've been a big fan of Anatoly since 2016. I sat down and watched him in the juniors at Worlds in Killeen, and he was just miles ahead of all the other juniors. I remember seeing like he squatted like 300. I mean, he was like 18, 19 or 20. I guess the earliest a junior could be. And so he did 300-ish, benched maybe a 200 and pulled like 320 or something. And, you know, that was at 93. And since then, obviously going up to 105, and his squat blew up completely. I think the most recent training footage that he like posted was like a 305 for 10 squat, which was
it was
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was very fluid, very good to depth. Everything looked nice. You know, like I've watched his training for that long, and he's always trained in that like cave bunker setup forever. So, you know, I talked to him a little bit in DM, and he basically said that depending on, you know, the situation, depends on the government, they may not let him even go because of obviously the war and stuff going on. I'm afraid that like maybe they think he would just leave and not come back. So but the travel stuff is very restricted still.
Did that again? I mean, because myself and Mo will be there, right? I know we love competition, all of us, but things like that, when you said I might not make it, did it actually made you a little bit happy deep down, thinking, oh God, I can walk through and win this money here?
Chance has got a higher IPF GL point, hasn't he? So he should be in the clear.
No. Yeah, I mean, Anatoly's best is 116 point something. I think that was in Sweden. Yeah. He had a perfect day. But I think as long as I do what I should, I don't think I lose. I mean, like I'm just straight up like, you know, again, I won't be doing this meet at like below 93. It'll be above 93.
I was going to ask
Yeah.
you this because I know you don't want to break the world record for Sheffield. So you're just going to come
Right.
above the weight class and just do whatever you want to do, and then it doesn't count.
Yeah, what I think I'll do is like 93.01 or something, as close as I can get, because I still want it to see like legit in terms of what I can really do. Obviously it won't count, but that's kind of the point. But I do want the international experience and kind of be with you guys and, you know, soak up the meat. I have no idea what it's going to be like there. I've seen some of the international meets. I've always wanted to do international meet, like international in terms of like a UK meet or like a Asians meet or some sort of, you know, like completely out of my zone, right?
You know what? Someone told me that you didn't particularly like South Africa.
No.
Mate, hold on. Before we go there, right?
Yeah.
You've never done international.
No. Well, I have. The Arnold in the US.
It doesn't count. Doesn't count because that's in the US. We're talking about something
but
where
to be fair though, because the US is so big, that's like in comparison to our Euros. You know what I mean?
But it's just still one country. I'm saying you flying into a different country where they speak different languages, right? Beggars can't be choosers chance, right? This is your first one ever. So you gotta be careful what you're gonna say here. What didn't you like about South Africa? But I'm an African, be careful. What did you like about it?
Bro, Majid's African too, bro.
I know, that's why Majid is laughing. He's thinking I'm gonna back you, brother.
Don't drag me into your battle, bro.
What happens at France? Chance.
I mean, it was fine. It's just not my thing, you know.
But
it's
why?
not.
What was it?
I think just to step in, because I think you mentioned this on the Nori podcast, didn't you? And then you were talking about there was a massive contrast between being in a resort and then outside of the resort. There was just a very, like, it was almost so different. Like the resort in South Africa, which I think was a fair point, was everything was amazing. It was 5-star food. Someone was playing pianos. You had croissants, you had cakes, you had eggs and omelets being made for you. But literally outside the gate, there were shanty towns. And like there were supermarkets where you weren't exactly sure if I went into this place, I'm not going to come out. Like it was a bit of a miss. So I think you mentioned that. I just thought it would be, because no one's actually, everyone, and to be fair, even I have said South Africa was amazing, but no one's necessarily talked on this point about how South Africa really was outside of the resort. So yeah, I just thought it'd be cool to hear your point of view.
I mean, Johannesburg, for people that don't know, is like one of the highest crime rates in the world. So that's one thing. So it's obviously we were outside of that, but we had to go through that. So obviously I just didn't want to be there, but inside the resort was fine. It's just not my particular space. It's so weird. This is like a me personal thing, is like in the US, we're surrounded by all different ethnicities, races, everybody. And I have what's the term? Is like I have a good rapport, I guess, with everybody, right? Like I'm Mexican, black, white. It's weird for me to be in a like place with all black people that they look like, when I say things, like it just doesn't make sense. And like, it's still like this language barrier that doesn't feel like it really should be there for me. And I'm like, it's very, very weird. Where it's like, it would be one thing is if I went to like some Asian country and no one spoke any English and like, oh, okay, that's what I'm signing up for. It's weird when it's like, people do speak English and we're all look alike and we don't really are the same type of people. You know what I mean? I'm not from that, right? So like, it was still weird to me. And I think they see me as like, almost like a fake black person. Like I'm not really one of them either. You know what I mean? And so it was this little out of world, I guess, situation. And two is another thing is like the whole time was the stupid masks shit the whole time, no matter where I went. And it's like, are you really still caring about this? Like you guys have the highest crime rate ever around everything and you're worried about the masks.
I mean,
like shit like that. I'm like, no.
A bunch of lifters did get the vid though. A bunch of lifters did get COVID.
I mean, I've had it like 3 times. I'm fine. I'm like, just let's move on. Like if you're.
Did you train for it?
Huh?
Did you train for it?
Did
you train through like getting...
So like the first time it was rough for the first couple days, After that, it was like, okay, I'm fine, but I still definitely have it. So I don't want to go and give it to people at the gym or anything like that.
Of course, yeah.
The next couple of times, it was like nothing. And so like it was there and then gone within like a couple of days. But no, I mean, it was fine. It's just stuff like that. And like the inconvenience thing of like, it's just, I'm extra like that. That's fine. But still, you know, outside of the resort, it was just not great. So it was fine. Not the end of the world, but yeah, I would love to be in London. Would love to check it out. Just not get stabbed. That's it.
You might get stabbed in London. That's the problem. Depending
Yeah.
on which area of London you go to. Yeah.
London, you're not gonna get stabbed. You know, there's a chance.
Arnold's isn't in London though.
It's in Birmingham.
It's in Birmingham.
Yes,
Birmingham
it's
is worse.
It's equal.
Birmingham is the worst.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's
Nice
more
part of
chance
Birmingham,
of you. There's a chance of you getting shot in America than getting stabbed in Birmingham. Believe me. So you'll be good. So you'll be good on that.
I don't think that's true, bro.
I mean, there's only one way to find out, bro. There's only one way to come over here.
Here's the thing that I think people overseas like don't really understand about the US. They like, holy shit, you guys can just go to the store and buy a gun and everybody has guns. It's like, yeah. So when everybody knows that someone has a gun and they're strapped, like people don't fuck around with people, right? Like you tend to don't like, unless something happens, you know, like, holy shit, like this guy's gonna like, we're fighting at the gym. Okay, cool. Like I'll go to my truck real quick and come back in. Like we don't play like that. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like that where, yeah, you do know how everybody has access to firearms and shit. I think it's different, like straight up. It's not the same.
Just to touch on that point, I just saw a video very recently. Does everyone know Cali Muscle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a video going around of him, like someone, like he was filming outside the gym and someone like bumps into him or something. And like he goes, "Are you good, bro?" And he pulls out a knife. And I'm just like, is that just that happen on a normal basis? Is that like you just pull out a knife outside the gym?
Probably not knives. I mean, it depends on where you're at, but not knives. I mean, that's what I'm saying is like, we have guns. Almost a lot of people can just get a gun. So it is that like you don't fuck around. Right.
Yeah,
that's wild.
You know what? Let not talk about guns because I'm gonna starting a bit political here and then we'll deviate. So yeah, talking about South Africa again. You said about you didn't like the experience inside. I'm sure you'll probably agree with me. The competition itself went really well, especially for you winning, was fantastic. For myself as well, again, the experience outside is not something you want to see. You know, because of me, I actually went outside to those shops that you're talking about. You might not come back, but I came back alive. But it's not something that I would tell anybody to go. I went and I almost fought someone. I told Joey the full story. My question on this chance was, yes, your first international, your first competition abroad happening in South Africa. So the next one is going to be Immortal. So we're looking forward to Immortal.
Next is here.
Arnold.
No, I'm not talking about Arnold. I'm talking about international, IPF international. I'm not talking about that Arnold thing. Arnold is something that we all just using Arnold as a springboard. Am I lying for a chance? You're using Arnold to gain international experience, right?
And for the money.
For the monies, bro.
Yeah, businessman.
He's not coming here for free.
So talking about money.
Checks.
So talking about money, I think some of the American, I'm not going to mention people's name here because I'm not doing publicity. They mentioned about it's not about the money, it's about the love of the sport. Do you agree with them?
Yeah, into an extent, until you're in the position to make money, and then you want to make money, right? Like it is about the love of the game until you're at the top, and then at the top, you're like, yeah, let's get this money. Fair.
Honest opinion. That's fair.
You know, I'm gonna bring up a few names about your teammates in Patent America. Like, what's your relation with them like? Like Kaiko, for example.
It's so weird. Okay, I wanted to say this somewhere. I have a great relationship with Kaiko.
Yes.
With Kaiko.
Yeah.
I don't have a good relationship with Joey at all. Every time Joey says something, I just like hold my tongue.
Just to clarify, not me, Joey.
Yeah, flex. But
I didn't know that. What's the reason?
Kaiko is great. Like, you know, we talk about anime stuff. We talk about all of his type of game stuff, everything. And Nina's so nice to me. Like, they're all so nice. So like, it's weird when people try to make this like this head-to-head like rivalry type thing that, you know, I've been cool with him since 2016, 2017. You know, we did Raw Nash. It's cool. I want to post this picture, and I wish I had another one of me and Kaiko back in 2017 at USAPL Raw Nationals, and like how different we look versus now. And, you know, I think at that meet I placed 6th. I think he placed like 4th. And then now, obviously.
Yeah, I remember that. I think that's one of the few meets you've actually placed below 3rd. One of the
I mean, that was a while ago. We don't talk about that.
Yeah.
I mean, so you mentioned the relationship with Flex and Ishak there. You were trying to say something. Can you jump in, bro?
Yeah, I was gonna say, because that's something I don't think I've heard you mention on any podcast, where you don't seem to have a good relationship with Flex. Would you mind expanding upon that, as long as it's not too personal? Obviously.
No, it's just like constant disrespect. Like for someone that's been around so long and have seen me come up, it's like pretty sad that you're just like constantly like. I think someone asked him about like, oh yeah, you know, how would John be head to head with like Russell? And he's like, oh yeah, you know, actually like John would probably be a 93 right now going head to head with Kaiko. It's like, what are you talking about? Like he has to go head to head with me.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's just like, oh, Kaiko lost. Chance didn't win. Chance didn't do this. Chance didn't push and make like a ton of progress from powerlifting American Nationals to Worlds. You know, Chance, I said this before on another podcast, like Joey completely in our like team Zoom call for Powerlifting America.
Yeah, I heard this. Yeah.
He literally just said in front of everybody, like, oh yeah, it doesn't even matter who's handling Kaiko because Kaiko's clearly the stronger lifter and it doesn't even matter. And we all laugh and I was like, okay, that's fine. You know, whatever, just being very disrespectful. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to hold it. That's fine. He earned it. He was number 1. He's the best. Okay. But again, when you're the coach, it's like, be respectful of the other athletes, right? Like I remember at Worlds, I was coaching one of my lifters, and one of the lifters that I was coaching had this like, he was sitting down in a chair and the other athlete next to him kind of like, he said like, bro, get out of my seat or something like that. And like, try to like bully him back. And so like, obviously like, I'm not going to sit there and just be like, oh, this is cool. You have to have like some rapport with your athlete and then also the other athletes around. And there has to be this level of respect for both people. And like, I could just be super rude and be like, no, get the, like, handle this, but I have to be polite. I have to do all this other stuff.
Nah, bro, like that can't run. That is disrespectful.
I'm right. But what I'm saying is like, there has to be a way you handle things in the moment with athletes that are going head to head to each other.
Yeah.
And I can't like, if they're going back head to head, I'm going to leave it, right? Like there's going to be some level of like, hey, you got to move, but I'm not going to be like, get the fuck out. And like, now that athlete has to deal with a coach in the moment of a competition. And like that back and forth. There's a lot of stuff that like Flex team does to like, I've heard this from other people of like, trying to intimidate other athletes in the warm-up room and like saying shit like that and having all their people around doing X. And I'm fine with that. Like I'm handling my own stuff. I'm in my own thing. I usually stay away from people, but it's stuff that's like petty shit like that I just don't like. So I try to go ahead.
Just on that, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, this is not about Flex, but we're going to deviate a little bit, but I'm going to change my question around Flex. Do you think Flex have got some sort of, let's say, the right to treat people the way it does because he believes he has got all these world champion roster? You don't think that's one of the factors that makes him treat you guys like that?
I think it's just our personal thing. I don't necessarily know that it's like everybody else, but I have a lot of respect for what he's done as a coach and like who he's helped in everything that he's accomplished. So it's just frustrating.
Have you spoken
What's
to
that?
him? Have you spoken to him? Like ever?
Dude, I mean, I've known him since like 2013, 2014. Yeah.
And you spoke to him like just straight up like, yo, what's...
I mean, we've had like, there's been times where like just, we have a long history, but it's not even personal with him. It's just like what it is as a situation. I mean, this started from the Kaiko thing, right? I was just trying to say that like, I don't really have any issues with other athletes or anything like that. Everybody else is very cool. Like, I remember when Gavin was first like coming up, like I was like, you guys have to watch Gavin. Like he's before like anybody knew, like before he had like 2,000 followers, and now he's like 100,000 followers or something crazy, blowing up and just obviously doing really well. So I don't have any problems with other athletes or like head-to-head matchups like Anatoly or whatever. I'm super excited to watch him and see what he does, obviously, as his first meet back. But yeah, like I'm usually pretty chill with most people.
Cool. I guess now, because we're touching on coaches, obviously you coach athletes yourself, and you've had experience working with like you mentioned earlier, TSA. What's your opinion on the different coaching teams out there, and obviously the methods that they're pushing per se? Like obviously RTS, TSA, TSG, all them like coaching teams. Do you feel as though your specific brand stands out, or is there some similarities or anything like that?
So the first question I have for you is, do you think that all of these teams have a very similar approach? Like, so if RTS has like their setup that all of the coaches do, I guess that's the first question. Do you think everybody has their own system essentially?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I feel as though they do. Yeah.
So I think there are some like teams that do have a specific system. And then I know like for like Nori, I know like kind of their approach, like all the other athlete or all of the coaches' approach. Mine's different, right? Like me and Sean think very similarly about a lot of stuff, but we definitely have different approaches. I know that TSA doesn't necessarily do everything the same, like depending on the coach. I think people are like, oh, hey, this is RTS way. And it's like, no, not really. Like, I don't know specifically what Mike does right now. I've seen some stuff, before, kind of an idea of, the emerging strategies set up. I have an idea of what TSG does. I have an idea of, TSA or Flex. Flex has a specific setup that I would probably say most of them follow, that I know like, oh, hey, this is a Flex athlete, right? Like I know kind of how they do things. But yeah, I mean, I think most people are getting to a daily undulating setup. Most people are gravitating towards higher frequency. I think on like bench, at least, I think most people are on 2 to 3 times a week squat. Most people 2 times a week deadlift. Daily undulating periodization has the most data to support its effectiveness now, period. Like most people, if you're not doing some sort of daily undulating setup, you're just not caught up to date. I'll just say straight up.
Right now. Just a quick question to hop on what Joey said. I don't coach, so I don't necessarily know all the terminologies and the ins and outs and everything. But I noticed in South Africa, and especially I think you were probably one of the lifters I saw was doing this the most. A lot of people were quote unquote tapering very late. So there was a lot of heavy lifting happening the week of comp. And I was very surprised to see this, especially at the top end, and especially if like even 105's Clement was squatting 290 a few days before his competition. You pulled a 340 kg deadlift or somewhere around that.
350, yeah.
350, yeah. So is that a specific, not to go into much detail, making much of a coaching or programming podcast, is there a specific reason why you've tapered? Because what I know is you train, you have a week, on the week of comp, you kind of relax and then you compete on a Saturday. So why the pushing frequency on that last week?
Okay, let me see if I can break it down quickly on how or why this is the case. For the most part, when you're doing more and more intensity and volume, you get beyond a threshold where these numbers are like hyperinflated. And as soon as they get to this hyperinflated range, when you start pulling back on anything, you will significantly be underperforming. You will quickly taper because your body is already at this super inflated number. As soon as you drop anything off, things are going to start crashing. So for me, I'm sure you've seen like either higher volume, higher intensity. And when I get to the last like 4 or 5 weeks of training, things are pushed extremely hard. Like for the most part, getting to ranges that you're like, okay, how are we still doing this? How are we still doing this? If I pull back too much, I am going to crash into comp. If I pull back just a little bit, I can gain, enough to feel fresher on game day, recovered, but I still need to be very trained in order to handle, or in order to maintain my overinflated strength ceiling, essentially. If that makes sense.
When you mentioned
that makes sense. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
When you mentioned the overinflated ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
Is it like that super compensation period that you're trying to attain, or is
no.
Okay.
So when you're in this range where you're everything is essentially the ceiling is hyperinflated, you can't super compensate. You're not going to super compensate much. If anything, it's a marginal percent over this, because it's like, okay, I have this like saying where I'm like 2-3 weeks out and I'm doing 5s with 330 or something, or 320 on deadlift. And then I do a max set of like 360 for a double or something. And I see comments of like, this guy's an idiot. He's about 2 weeks out, 1 week out. There's no way he'll recover in time. And like, they just don't know like contextually where I'm at and how much I have forceful raising of the ceiling with extra volume, more intensity, that if I pull back on anything, I will completely crumble and detrain. If I maintain as much of this as I can, I will be at this hyperinflated number. And then, maybe we'll say that, hey, you're beat up, your knees are aching. All this is kind of digging into your max performance by a little bit, right? You're still strong on the day, but you do feel beat up. Yeah. That minus 4 or 5% from feeling beat up or whatever can be that super compensation effect that you're talking about, but it's only a very small amount that's made up by a 2 to 3 day taper, small taper at the end of a prep. Those last couple of days before the meet, you can kind of recover enough to be fresher, but not detrained.
Okay, cool.
That's interesting. I do really like it. Yeah.
Again, when you're pushing into this range, this is part of the territory. It's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
If you don't need to do all this crazy amount to make progress, you will, like, say, for example, Mo, if you're on a little bit less volume, moderate intensity, moderate frequency, you may not need to get to a point where you're hyperinflating all these. You're not ever going to be at that point. By pulling back a little bit on the intensity at the very end, you probably will get a super compensation effect, because you're not beyond this threshold of almost like artificial ceiling from all this extra work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm guessing for just sorry.
Yeah, no, go.
Before I make it to program it, I'm guessing to push this kind of training, your recovery needs to be on point. If you're going to make this hyperinflated baseline for yourself, because recovery is everything unless you will break at some point. So it's not something everyone necessarily can run the first time, or it's more like you have to do multiple preps to really build your body or tolerance to be able to train this way.
And it's a risk because injury, it's a risk for a lot of reasons, but it's higher risk of injury inherently because you are doing so much more than you can handle for a sustainable period, right? Like, I'm pushing this aggressive for a 4-week period or so, right?
Yeah. So Mo's question actually ties in. I know I'm interrupting you, Jones, but because obviously Arnold's is coming up, I suppose you're going to take the same approach you did leading up to Worlds this year to the Arnold's, where you get in slightly earlier, get some training in this time zone location.
Not too much. I'm flying in. I already have my flights that Wednesday, and I think it's a 7-hour flight. It's 7-ish, 8 maybe. And then I'll obviously compete after that. I have my last like squat session right before my flight, and then I'll be over there. I have one bench, and then it's meet day.
Oh, cool. So you won't be training beforehand at all over here?
Nah.
Oh, a bit more.
All right.
Okay.
Talking about it, and thanks for the coaching, guys. When you got two coaches in the podcast, that's what you get. So I hope Ishak and you got a lot of insight, because me, I was taking notes. So again, last question on coaching. I know, again, you mentioned there you've been writing your own stuff since 2018, you said, right? If I'm right. Also, you've been solo. And my question here, it will be, what made you join the Nori team? What did you see there that attracted you to be part of a team?
I think, especially as more teams are forming, it's going to be necessary to have some sort of collective, to have good reach, good support over in different places. For example, now with Powerlifting America, I coach a lot of USAPL lifters. I can't coach on meet day for any of them now.
Yeah.
So I have to have, say that again?
Because of the IPF rules that you can't.
Right. It's frustrating, but that means, I have Jaron, Sean, Aiden, I have Eric Larson for overseas as well. I have these other, and Michael Jen, I have all these other options for meet day handling, depends on where we're at. And they know my plan. They have, everything locked in. It works out really well. So for example, if, I'm overseas and, Sean's has whatever IPF lifter and he needs me to help or whatever it is. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good to have a support system in multiple facets of powerlifting. I think it is good for the team dynamic. I think it's good for having like a podcast stuff and having, people around you that think very similarly. And I also feel like, Sean and I agree on a lot of stuff outside of powerlifting, and like our view of the world is similar in a lot of ways. So to me, it made a lot of sense. And I think, obviously if at some period I didn't want to be a part of it, I think it would be fine. I mean, I could do my own thing, but I do think it's very much worth that dynamic.
Would you, I mean, this is one of the questions just I was thinking when you were talking. As a coach with these massive teams coming up around, it's like there's a Nori team, there's a Flex and the rest. For a newcomer coming to powerlifting, a novice lifter, would you advise is a good option for them to join these big teams, or maybe find a local and low-key coach first, gain that experience to get used to the sport, and then you can get yourself to the massive team? Because again, don't get me wrong, it does not cost a penny. It costs a hell of a lot of money with these big names. So is it something that you advise anyone to be involved with?
If you are brand new to lifting weights, like at all, like you definitely need to have somebody in person to be able to help you with stuff hands-on. Most people at that newish stage, they don't understand how to move their body through space. Like if someone tries to contextualize, some sort of tech on, a voice message or something online, it's a little bit more difficult. It's an easier thing if you can be in person with somebody, show them how to move their body and actually do it hands-on. There comes a point when you're a little bit more advanced, even an intermediate, where I think people kind of understand a little bit more of the tech stuff, maybe not everything. And that's where you need a high level athlete that also coaches to be able to help. I'm sure you guys have heard people say like, oh, you don't need to be a top level lifter or anything to be a good coach, right? Like you can just be a good coach, period. And I agree with that. But I also think there's an inherent benefit to working with a coach that is also a high level athlete, because they have a ton more experience hands-on with themselves, with obviously other people that they've worked with, but they can relate it to their own training. They can relate it to their own movement. They can relate it to things that they've tried that didn't work. I've been around for so long. I've tried so many different things that just completely didn't work, or I've done it the wrong way for a long time and forcefully had to adapt and fix it to be able to make progress again. There's a lot of coaches that just don't like compete in powerlifting. They don't know what it's like to compete. They don't really understand like what goes into the athlete's mind on game day. They don't understand like the mentality shift on things. They don't have that like instinct that like you do as a high level lifter. Again, there can be great lifters. I mean, great coaches that are not lifters. But I definitely think there's an intrinsic weight that needs to go into working with a top level athlete as well. If I were to get coached by somebody, it would be someone like Sean, because it would be because he has the experience with actually hands-on coaching people, and then his own lifting as well, and movement. Like someone that doesn't bench will not be able to teach you how to get a great arch and like force your position changes, move your feet in this particular, I promise you, like there's some that have good general feeling about how should be done, but they don't really have it. They can't explain it as in depth as someone like Sean could.
This is probably gonna be my last question into the whole coaching thing. I know we've discussed heavily on like in the American teams, but have you ever looked into like the more international scene? Like obviously there's coaching teams in France emerging, you know, in the Oceania, like in New Zealand and everything. Have you ever looked into those coaching teams?
Yeah, so from a lot of different points, like EST, right? Like I know over here, that's big. Owen, who I work with, is leading that and doing really well. So I see the teams in like the independent sense. I also see, you know, like Penna and what he's done with France. I've seen the actual like team coaches for like clubs in different countries and how they do things, kind of some more outdated than others. And, you know, all these other different countries, their base set up, how they do things. It's very interesting. Yeah. And I definitely pay attention overseas way more than probably a lot of other US people do.
I'm actually glad you mentioned Panna, because obviously the sort of idea now is that Team France is pretty much coming for redemption, and I don't know, like, do you reckon they got what it takes to actually, enough chance, take it from you? I know, like right now you're pretty much ranked number one, easy wins, get all the moolah guap guap, but like, do you reckon he's got like? Do you reckon he's got like? Yeah.
Just very quickly, do you understand what Joey said?
Are you saying that like France overall, like Penna will come beat me or what?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Oh no, the Muller guap guap reference.
The monies. Of course he knows. Like,
You know, he's looking at you thinking, what the hell are you talking about?
Bro, they're asking if you know what I meant by moolah and guap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, bro.
They're not taking my money, no.
Yeah.
Oh, good mind,
Yeah.
good mind. So you're not so American then, so that's good.
Bro, that is American. What?
Bro, it's not the words that you're using, it's your accent.
Oh.
So Joey, see, I'm not the only one. So going back to your question, mate, about Pana and all that Chance, they're saying France is coming to for redemption. So what's your take on that? Do you think they would do it?
Are you saying like Penna breaking the world record total?
Maybe beating you. Let's go straight. Yeah.
Straight up
beating. I mean,
That's not gonna happen, man.
you have a better shot of beating me on points.
What are you saying, me?
I'm saying like Penna's like ranked 8th or something, not nominated points.
He's coming for redemption. Redemption means I'm coming.
Yeah, I think he can break the world record total for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But you're also trying to say he's not gonna get the win from you.
Yeah, not on points, man. Like I mean, Mo has a good shot. Like, you know, Anatoly has a good shot. It's not likely anybody else, really.
Wow, I don't have a good show. You prick.
Not more than Mo.
You know. Anyway,
I don't think Pana will want to push it to that level either. Considering, I think he just wants to secure his. A lot of people come in want to secure their Sheffield ticket one day.
I think he actually will have to though, because Eddie was the one who set the world record recently.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to get that wildcard spot, he will have to actually break it as a 66. And then
I hope he gets the Sheffield wildcard spot. There will be 3 different 66s. I really obviously wanted my guy Joe to get it. I asked Joe to do the Arnold UK to try to get the qualifier, but I don't know that that's really how it's going to work. There's so many people in line for that wildcard spot that I don't even know that even if Pana has a perfect day and, you know, breaks the world record total, that he's for sure even guaranteed a spot at all. You remember, like, Lugo doesn't have a spot, Jesus doesn't have a spot, you know, Kaiko doesn't have a spot, Gavin doesn't have a spot, Gustav doesn't have a spot, Krastev doesn't have a spot.
Yeah,
Anatoly doesn't have a spot.
Anatoly doesn't have a spot. Like,
so many people.
Yeah, there's so many people. Like, who's to say who, you know, deserves one and doesn't? I don't know.
Who do you want though? Who do you want to get the wild card?
Above anybody else, Krastev. It's very sad for me to see someone that, like, is not in the best position in terms of either his country, he didn't even have a sponsor until very soon here recently. Now he's very close behind me, obviously. He basically is an unknown, has been working really hard. He was 6th at Worlds last year, and now he got 2nd.
Yeah.
And then to hear people say Kaiko needs the rematch versus Chance. It's Preston beat you too, right?
Exactly.
If I got 3rd, no one would be saying Chance needs the rematch. It's what are you saying?
Because
stuff like that. It just doesn't make sense. And so
because
Preston for sure. Yeah.
Chance, not many people like Chance. That's why. That's what people know. They're gonna say Chance, give Chance a chance. Only I and us here like Chance. Talking about Emil, right? I think me and you had a conversation at World when you won, and I was brutally honest. And maybe I don't know, maybe because I was drinking, and I told you straight. I said you won World, but I think Emil was the strongest lifter. The reason I say that is because what you achieved at World, the numbers you achieved, I'm sure in this panel they will agree, no one was surprised. No one shocked us because we had that belief in you, you can achieve those numbers. But Emil, no one thought Emil would push himself to that point where not being that close to you. Maybe you did, but you didn't. But would you agree with me when people say Emil was the stronger lifter that day?
I don't know, man. If you would have seen my deadlift
that's a tough
in
one.
in the warm-up, so straight up, the fucking platform, I literally just put my feet in the divots in the holes and pulled from there because I didn't know where would be a good spot. And I want to worry about rolling it around back and forth and getting myself tired before I'm about to pull a max, right? And so I just pulled in holes. My last warm-up was I did 330 as my last warm-up, and I could have hit that for 6 to 7 reps in the back. And so I'm yeah, I mean, sure, maybe, my bench, I had another 2.5 squat issues, I'll whatever. I just know that I knew what to expect with Krastev. He basically did what I expected, what I talked to him about. I've known him for a few years now. It's again, kind of going back to the point where he was this unknown that people are holy shit, this guy beat Kaiko as well. He deserves it more than anybody, right? Especially when we're talking about this Bulgarian that maybe doesn't have all the access to either whatever money situation or whatever it is. He definitely earns this spot to Sheffield, period, above Kaiko. And we already have, me, we already have Umar Kanane from Algeria, who has the current world record squat at the 93s. So he's already has an auto invite. So him and I are the 93s right now, which would mean they need to give Krastev the 3rd spot. Mm-hmm. Then if Kaiko goes, you would have to say, okay, now there's 4 93s, which may be what they want to do. But it is a weird situation on who they want to pick. I just don't want them to skip over Krastev for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Just because the public eye says Kaiko deserves the rematch, which is yeah, of course. We just went head to head twice, but sure, we can go back a 3rd time. I mean, but don't pretend Krastev didn't beat you as well.
Yeah. I mean, not obviously you're talking about Sheffield,
the
wild card spot right now, but also Sheffield is relatively close in terms of time wise to.
It's March, right?
Nationals. Your next.
Okay. Powerlifting American Nationals. Yeah. So I am not doing Powerlifting American Nationals.
Oh.
So I'm just doing Sheffield. So all the athletes me, Taylor, Delaney are the only athletes that auto qualified from the US. Mm-hmm. We have our nationals a couple weeks before Sheffield, or it's maybe the 1 week before or something. So they basically said, hey, they haven't said anything formally about us, what we're going to do. From what I hear and what I've talked to the coaches about is that we're just going to do that. And then as long as we do what we should, we should have our spots, but who knows what's going to happen. It's a weird thing where it's okay, say Kaiko or maybe Gavin comes over to US and does Powerlifting America, or maybe the other 93s just show up, and maybe Petrie shows up, comes over here, has a great day and hits whatever total, right? I told the coaches, I don't really give a fuck about what any of them do at Powerlifting American Nationals. If I need to hit a specific number for $25,000, $40,000, whatever it is at Sheffield, I don't care. Like, I'll take it. And if you guys want to decline my spot because this person totaled 5 kilos more than me domestically, then do it.
Right. So talking about Petrie, I wanted to touch on this because there's a lot of things been going on about, there's a rumor going on, Brandon might come to, what are you calling yourself nowadays? Is what, PA?
Powerlifting America, yeah.
Okay. Powerlifting. Brandon might be coming to Powerlifting America. So you're like the 93 of the USAPLs, right? I mean, they go to 90s, I think. No, 93, 90s. They're 90 class and the 93 of IPS. What do you think about this debate going on around? Because some people believe USAPL have got some of the best lifting in some weight classes. They call themselves the best in the world. But me, I define best in the world what you did in South Africa. That's what made you best in the world. Even what Delaney did in South Africa made him best in the world, better than Russ this year. I believe that because he did it against the world. So what do you think about that argument going on?
I'm a little closer to the US's side of the spectrum in this argument. And I will say that because, I mean, Delaney versus like, you know, Russell, Sean, and Angelo, right? Like, I'm not going to pretend like I don't think Delaney would lose to any of them. Like, he definitely could. But I do agree with what you're saying that, like, hey, if you show up to an international comp, you actually do all of these things and processes to actually solidify your place, you earn the spot as the world's best. I do say that, but I also say we know how strong they are in the 83s. They definitely could probably head-to-head win. With my situation, I don't think if Petrie would have totaled like 900, 905, like, then I would be like, okay. He didn't total that much more than us. And that's with, like, I'm sure you saw Russell's squats. You saw a lot of lifters squats at USAPL Nationals. The depth was high as fuck. Like, if people are like, oh yeah, Chance, like your squats were high at IPF Worlds, I was like, dude, all of these people in the US would bomb out.
Oh yeah. Oh, we saw that.
Like,
We watching
straight up. Like, I don't even want to be like trying to compare, but when they compare first to the IPF, like, I'll go back. I'll reply for sure on that, because, you know, I saw some of the squats and, you know, it is what it is. Like, we weren't there in person. We didn't see the side views and all that kind of stuff. But even still, it's one thing to claim a domestic total and then try to say that it would carry over to an international comp where you got to fly for 20 something hours and actually be in a country you have no idea what's going to happen. And again, Kaiko has totaled more than Petrie domestically. So I don't necessarily think I think that's a better indicator that I'm right? Where it's like, you know, he had the best total when he was in the United States and everything was to these conditions in the US, USAPL. And then you fly 20 something hours and you have to, you know, do all these other factors. And then your total goes down by 15, 18 kilos. It's like, okay, are we going to pretend like who was the current best at that time in USA? If this impacted him that much, what is it going to be like for somebody else that never did that? It's like, don't pretend, you know, like, you've got to say straight up. So I hate doing this. I hate having these like very sports-like discussions on like these athletes versus these athletes, because it almost sounds like I'm trying to discredit people or, you know, really say like, no, these people are better or this person's better. It's just like, I got to call it like it is. And I wouldn't have if none of them said anything beforehand. But immediately after, some of the coaches and people in the US were like, yeah, the 90 kilo guy beat the 93s in the world, so it doesn't even matter. US is better and shit like that. It's like, shut the fuck up, stay in your lane. And if you want to come over, great, do it. And if you don't, then okay, don't say anything. Like, I'm tired of the people. And this is another thing. And then in that US PA, that American Pro or whatever, the untested meet that happened just here recently.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen a few of the top guys, right, that claim natural. I'm not saying names. They say they're natural, and they're like, yeah, if I just went over to USAPL and, you know, did blah, 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 I would smoke everybody. It's like, you do have no right to say anything until you actually do it. You cannot try to say like, oh yeah, I'm natural, I'm completely clean, and then I'll go actually do this. And everybody, like, it's in our side. It's like, oh, they're gonna come over, and it's like, dude, wait until they do it before you start like sucking them off.
I mean, personally, I don't know about the rest of the panel and yourself. personally, I don't really watch the untested match.
I don't either.
Because
No,
there's no nothing.
American Pro was funny to watch though. I like it was just fun.
I can't.
it's funny. Yeah.
I mean, the judging was disgusting, right? And the reason, and another thing as well, I can't relate myself to them. Anything they do, I don't. You know what I mean? First of all, even from the deadlift bar they use, I've never used one in my life. And plus, if you include the other factors, they probably inject themselves, you know, and you don't know that. And I can't relate. So when people big them up and people talk about, oh, this person gonna pull with 400, who gives a fuck if they pull 400? No one cares. Do you know what I mean? No one cares about it. It's not certified. You know, go to IPF World.
You're playing a game with the cheat codes on.
Yeah, no one cares. So, and then going back to Petrie story, I would just ask you a yes or no answer, right? I don't want a long-winded answer.
Sure.
Do you think in your current position or current performance or whatever you call the level, do you think if Petrie comes over next year, if you have the time and the place to compete, do you think you're going to beat him?
Can I put a small answer on this? Not just yes or no?
No,
small.
Yes or no? Yes
okay.
or no?
Was it that he's going to beat me, or wait, which did you say?
Are you going to beat him?
Are you going to beat him?
If we were to compete at
bro. Yes or no, please.
Yes or no?
Wait, which meet? Which meet is it?
If the place is given to you next year, Petrie is clear to compete in IPF. Do you think you will beat Petrie?
Yes.
Cool. Right, that's all we wanted to know.
That's what we wanted to know.
Now, can I please explain?
No. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on.
All right, fine.
Because go on, Mo. Yeah, no. I was gonna open up the floor.
I was gonna say that I just to quickly hop on because obviously I've messaged you a little bit. I know so we've heard the last 5 minutes of you talking, and from what I can read, it's very clear you want to make a statement going forward to all the 90 kg or 93 kg lifters across. Just to say that I am at the top and I am the one to watch for going forward. So what's your plan, if you don't mind sharing, at Arnold's? What numbers are you thinking? What are you thinking of doing? What kind of statement are you looking to make there?
I don't want to really push too hard on the trying to hit this PR. I want to go in and look like I'm number one and I executed like I should. Is that a fair answer?
It's a political answer, but yeah, I'll go with
it. Okay. I want to squat 317, 320 at most, right? I did 315 at Worlds.
Yeah.
I want to bench 192, 195. I did 190. I've done 192 in comp already. I want to pull 380, 382, maybe. Okay. That's it.
So you want to outpull Anna? If he got his,
I don't really care about that.
I was gonna ask though, because obviously how the Arnold's is set up. It's we personally anyway. I don't have a lot of experience because obviously you're going up against guys that are going against others within the GL point system, right? So they're not really looking at just the numbers on the total against a specific weight class that they're in. But they have to do a specific calculator on top of what they're doing already. I think you're one of the few that actually have a lot of experience because obviously you've done the Arnold's there. I'm not really going to count the AMRAP because I don't think it's more or less. No. But what is it like? First of all, so I actually have to go. Oh shit! So I have to talk with this, and I get this GL, my body weight's whatever and whatnot.
I think because there's only 4 other people that could be in contention to be head to head with me. If I just no matter what happens, right? If I have a bad day, or whatever, and someone else has a good day, can I name them?
Yeah, go, bro.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying, depending on what the situation is.
Who's the 4?
There's only 4 or 5 other people that could win, right? So what in that situation, all I have to do is basically say, okay, going into squat and bench, what are these totals that people have? And then figure out the points for the deadlifts, and that's it.
What Chance is trying to say is there's only him in contention for number 1, and then if Anatoly shows up, then maybe something could happen.
No, I think you and Anatoly could definitely beat me, depending on what happens.
I need like a 390 kg pull.
Which is you're capable of.
Bro, I'm not trying to break my back before Euros, man.
There is Chance. I don't know if you saw the list. I think I did post it on one of my story like a few weeks back. There is a guy that is doing equipped Berkland, a Backerland. That's what they say his name, I think.
He's doing it equipped or raw?
No, he's doing
both.
He's doing both.
Yeah, his name isn't both. He's doing basically equipped bench and raw. So he even said to me, I don't know if I'm going to be allowed. So he wants to compete for all. Do you know
he's trying to make money on everything.
Of course, he want to collect checks. So again, I know this is the thing that like it just come to like a world, isn't it? People slept on someone like that and then suddenly it comes second. People like that, do you actually look at people like that or thinking, I got to watch my back on people like that because you never know? Because he's a legend. I think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So he just came back from the World Games, by the way. So it's nuts. So yeah, you yourself as being nominated in number one. Again, I know you mentioned 4 or 5 people, but people below that 5th place, do you still look at those people thinking anything can happen here? Or
I think that's
too confident?
I don't think it's that I'm too confident. It's just like the numbers of it, right? Like if I played out the numbers that they do, it's just, even if I would have to have a fucking 3 for 9 day, you know, it's stuff like that. I mean, I always watch the mid-level too, to see like how people are doing and how they're progressing. Like, so I know obviously all of like y'all seen, you know, some of the juniors coming up, kind of all of your lifters really, like James, and I know Fulat, I know Pickering, I know all of your people. So I watch to see how they're doing and just like am impressed by what they're doing. And you know, I want to see James especially do really well. I think he has a lot of potential to come up there. Nathan as well. So yeah.
Ishak, who do you think the 4 or 5 Chance is talking about, bro?
The 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, definitely Anatoly.
Yeah.
Abdul, as he said himself.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Durance. That's 3.
No, Chance said no. Right?
I said no.
Did he?
If we're talking about like me going 3 for 9, yeah, you got a shot, bro.
Okay.
Chance, be careful. I told you I'm an African. Have you heard of Juju?
Bro, you might actually get stabbed by Durance coming here, bro.
Chance,
you're gonna get stabbed by Durance.
I know he's not sensitive. I know
this is amazing. Yeah, it will be an interesting experience. I think for myself, Chance, we using, I mean, Joey will tell you as my coach, we using the Arnolds as not a test, but it's
just like a little tune up for
a springboard to the Euros. Like some of you're going to be computing as a 105 because you said you don't want to be under 93, and probably more as well. You're probably going to be under 120s because you don't want to be 105. If you can make it on the day, probably. But
yeah,
I'll probably
just wherever I walk in, I'll just compete at basically.
Yeah, potentially I'm going to be the only lifter they're going to weigh in like 81 or 82. So or maybe 79. Who knows? So anything is possible. Yeah. So just seeing what the Arnold brings, because we have got a European coming up. When they mentioned about you doing an international, I really thought, Chance, you're going to ask for a guest invite for the Euros. It would have been amazing. Is it something, did you consider something like that, or you just for like, let me just do the Arnold?
So full context here, I was planning on actually competing in Japan this 24th. It's like September 24th. It's like the exact day that was the Arnold. And I got through the business visa process, did everything, got approval from both Japan side and the America side, got everything set up. And then just like everything kind of was like, okay, I'm not quite sure about how this is going to like be. And I didn't have a guarantee. Like, so I was going to do workshops, seminars, stuff like that with the translator, and have like a bunch of stuff to do. And then, you know, I saw the payout for the Arnold and like kind of where I would be nominated. And I was like, it's more of a safe bet for me to just do the Arnold. And obviously, like all of you guys, Penna, the France team, you know, my guys like Owen, Ben Pape, all of my friends, right, like are going to be there. So it's like,
And
maybe I could do Japan on another day.
And you don't need a translator, maybe.
But it would be so cool to do like the meet was the Tokyo Championships, and it would have been really cool to do that. Even if it's like and I wanted to do this too because it would be a local meet essentially. I would just be guest lifting. So I was gonna do it at 93 and then just try to go all out and put up whatever I could, knowing that it won't break the world record total because it's not official, right? So I could kind of prove like, hey, I could do this with all the travel restrictions, all that kind of stuff, all the, hurdles to overcome, and then do it in a crazy fucking weird foreign situation and show up and put up this huge total. I mean, then no one could say anything. So I would wanted to really do that. But the 3,000 pounds and whatever else for the flight there, for the Arnold UK, and the flight's only like $600, it's worth it.
Whoa.
It's gonna you were gonna do a workshop in Japan. How come you're not gonna try and do one in the UK? Because I thought that would have worked really well.
I can. I just don't know that I have a good options for gyms. So like in Tokyo and in Japan, there's a bunch of different setups that I had. Like I had connects for different gyms already in a bunch of different cities, and already got confirmation from the owners there that, yep, we would be able to do it. Everything was good. And so I didn't have that. And now on a shorter time window, I didn't want to try to advertise and do all that kind of stuff. So that's why.
I'm surprised you're not trying to go to Japan for the anime.
For the anime.
Yeah, bro.
I mean, Charles, again, if you do the Arnold in September 24th, you still got time to get that one international before Sheffield, which is the Euros.
You're saying another one to do Euros too?
Why not? You still got 12, 13 weeks there to get that guest invite. Is it not something? The reason I'm pushing on this is it would be nice to see you and Emil again, because Emil will be there, Gustav will be there. So you need to test yourself with the best, isn't it? Although at the Arnold, some of the best in the world, including myself, I will be there. But but it would be nice for you to get that invite. It's not something that you actually considered, or you're just thinking, no, it's enough.
I'm also weighing out like prize money. I'm also weighing out the time of like how much of a commitment this would be. I'm also weighing out the fact that like I wanted to do something within this shorter time window and have a little bit more period to get fully prepared for Sheffield. I also want to save money. I also want to be home for a while as well. And just kind of, again, like if I could, like, so I just moved, I want to be able to get a little bit from this meet, chill for a little while, save up some more money. By the time Sheffield comes around, make another big check. That would be nice, right?
I would love to be.
I think flying to where is Euros at?
Poland.
Yeah.
So like flying to Poland, versus London is a way more expensive, obviously, and like I don't know how to deal with the language barrier stuff and whatever in terms of like hotels. Like I get employee rate hotels, so like my employee rate hotel in London and in Birmingham is very cheap. So it just made a lot of money to save it. And I was kind of surprised. Not many people I'm the only US lifter doing the Arnold, right? I didn't see like any of the other 93s didn't want to do it to try to go head to head. I mean, they saw my name up there for a while. It's not like, I was hiding or anything.
Do you think people would love to be beaten twice? So that's to know. I thought maybe the Poland, when you mentioned Poland, I thought you would say maybe it's close to Ukraine because of the war going on, because it's really close, guys. Very, very close. Even my old man said to me, are you sure you want to go Poland? I was like, yeah, I will have my gene to protect me. So as my 105.
Bro, I ain't sure I'm coming.
And talking about the Arnold, you say you're going to compete as a 105. I just realized now you can actually break the 105 world record deadlift.
Can I though? I think that's Christov's 390.
So?
I mean, I could, no. Like I definitely think, if I'm not cutting or whatever it is, and then training goes really well, I definitely think I can pull 390. I just don't want to do it. I don't like, you guys only know me here recently, I think, because I'm like I've been popping off late as of late. But before that, I was going like 9 for 9, 8 for 9 every meet nonstop. And like, I want to be the professional. Like when I coach athletes, I tell them like, I'm not putting a weight on that like we think we can miss. Like I'm putting a weight on that I can know I'm going to hit, and I'm going to execute, look like a professional. This is my job. This is everything that I do. This is what I teach. This is like, I need to be that example and show that. So that's something I do want to, you know, make sure I'm doing as well. I hate seeing people like go, you know, 8 for 9, missing their third deadlift every fucking meet. And it's a big deal. It feels really good to hit your third deadlift, no matter what it is. Like, as long as you make that lift, you feel like not satisfied, but you feel happy about what you just did, right? Regardless of whatever the specific number is.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are shots fired at me, but thank you very much, Chance. Because
me too. I missed my last full worlds, you know.
Yeah, I always miss my last deadlift, which is yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, I had not a last question, but just a question around when you mentioned about being a perfect guy, right? And what's the worst meet you've ever had?
The Arnold in 2018. I think
why?
It was 2018. Because like it was just a letdown for my best lift. I think that was the only time. No, this was the first time I went 1 for 3 on deadlift. Yeah. The second one was at Worlds, obviously, but that first meet at the Arnold was just such a letdown. I was like expected to pull like 345, and at the time like no one was pulling like over 317 ever at the 93s, and like I had a lot of hype behind me, and like I had like people that were counting on me and a bunch of shit like in terms of coaching, and I just like shit the bed entirely on deadlift, and I felt like I didn't even know what I was doing. So yeah, I mean, since that happens, like never again will I let some weird shit pop off again.
Damn.
Yeah, it's like,
so
probably,
what?
Yeah.
Go on, Mo.
No, I was just gonna say, like, looking at your history, like it took you a while to break that 350 kg barrier. Like, because I remember I've been following your training for a while, and like I remember seeing you pulling very close to 340s, 350, and then just on meet day for like a while, like a year plus. It took so long just for you to confidently execute on that third attempt, and then suddenly, boom, it was 365, and then you've just been able to build on that quite a lot.
Yeah. I didn't have a lot of like posterior chain work, period. So like I was just kind of like ramming my head against the wall, trying to find this extra 1% to make progress on deadlift, and just was not. And after, you know, really spending a lot of time developing my glutes, hamstrings, just all of a sudden, you know, started popping off.
I mean, going back to when you mentioned, say, us, we only finding out about you now, that's not true, because some of us,
maybe not you guys specifically, but people now.
Because I started powerlifting in 2016, right? And when I started powerlifting, apart from the UK guys, when we look at the Americans, we've seen Chance, and when the Norris and all of that, they were younger. This is what the people that we were looking up to. Leading to my question is, what is the worst injury you ever had, and how did you overcome it?
I've had a lot, dude.
Top 2, top 3 even.
So are we talking about like most catastrophic, or are we talking about like something that just took you out from training for a long time?
Most detrimental to
okay.
like progress.
The first like huge injury was almost removing my toe, like my big toe. I slammed 661, like 300 kilos on it. It's one of those where you're like so hyped that you like throw the bar down, you slam the bar down, and it went straight on my toe. My whole shoe was completely full of blood. My nail, it was a compound fracture. My nail went through the toe, like the bones was completely crushed through. It was just like the size of your big toenail was just a hole. And like I was in shock. Like I was in the hospital for a week, like because the hole just would not close and not heal. They can't do surgery or anything on it at that point. The nerves are fried. I can't move my toe at all. I had to have surgery at the end of the week. Like I had to be fully knocked out for that. yeah, it was the most, like I was hooked up, like to IV and shit, and like not like making sure that I had blood coming in because I was losing so much blood through that toe. I mean, you think about like, oh, it's just, this hole. It's like, if you ever had an open hole like this big, like, and that much blood, you will die. Like if you just have that much coming out of you eventually, right? Like you have to stop the bleeding. But it was just so much that they couldn't do anything. So I had to actually be hospitalized for a week. And after that, they had to literally reconstruct my toe, put the nail back, put the bone back, obviously put everything like, or not the nail, but the nail bed. And so after that, right, like you can't do anything. Like if you have any blood going into your foot, like a lot of blood, it's just going to break open and you won't be able to do anything. So it took like a month, 2 months before I could actually exercise, allowed to exercise. And then I was like squatting on a broken toe for like 3 months. And then after that, I went and like was able to continue to train. That was like the first big thing. And I still have like a sore, like my toe is like sore a lot from that. It just doesn't heal right. But that was a long time off. That was right after the Arnold in 2018. After that, the next biggest one was this like weird rib cage thing where like I was put in the hospital because my breathing, like my lungs were getting like almost punctured by my like ribs getting crushed. Like on a couple squats, it happened, and I just couldn't do anything. That took me out for a long time because I just couldn't load up my back, couldn't put any weight on my like back at all or push into a bench. The next one was the face where I blacked out under a bench and like dropped the bar on my face. It was like only 90 kilos, but it knocked out like 4 or 5 of my teeth. My whole face is fucked. I can send you like a picture of that.
I think you should, because we're gonna use it for this podcast. Send us that picture. We use it.
Right. It looks awful. So yeah, like that was a bigger one, but that didn't take me out too long. I've had like a bulging disc.
No teeth.
I've had a bulging disc, like a very really fucked up back since 2016. That was pushing like on my sciatic nerve, and I've had sciatic nerve issues since 2016. But that's easy because you can just manage that. But a lot of people have bulging discs that just don't ever impede anything because it doesn't push on nerves. It just doesn't get to that point. So I've had, obviously tendonitis, shit like that is just like, that's fine. Anything like that is completely cool. But yeah, that's the biggest shit that's happened. And a lot of that stuff took me out for a good amount of time.
Damn, that is all crazy.
That's scary. So, I mean, as a top tier athlete yourself, right? You mentioned about your injuries and all of that. I'm sure probably you've said in another podcast, but it just is intriguing for me to ask. Mentally, how do you prepare yourself through all that process, knowing, especially now, like you're the top lifter in the world in terms of like, removing Taylor, you know what I mean? When you put Taylor in there, it's a different ball game. But if you remove Taylor Howard, you are the top guy right there. And how do you deal with things like that, knowing I'm injured and I have to go back and be on the top again?
The good thing about having all that injury situations is that, like, no matter what, you feel like you can't overcome it. So I've had it where I've been hospitalized. I've had it where like you don't even know when the next time you'll be able to touch a bar or do anything, and knowing that, hey, I have to come back. As long as I don't have anything catastrophic happen like that again, and as long as I'm careful, I'll probably be fine in terms of an injury or getting sick or whatever else happens. It just takes a little bit. So it's not hard for me mentally. I think when you're at that low, like where you haven't trained in months, it feels miserable. Like you feel depressed. You feel like I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm a loser. Like you don't know, this is your whole life, right? Like for me, powerlifting is such a big part of my life. It is my life. You tie your self-worth to it. And it's really difficult to be in those positions. But if you can get through it, wow, does it change your perspective for how things can be going in the future, where it is easier to be positive with anything that happens, right? Like I have a lot of times in the gym where I'm like talking with whatever newer lifters or friends, and they're like super upset about their, like bench day that just was not quite right. And it's like, bro, like you'll be fine, man. Like, just trust me. Like, this is nothing. And so like even bad days in training, right? Like the Nori, no bad days. It really isn't a bad day. Everything is like completely fine. It's like, oh, okay. Like now I just go home and do whatever. And, you know, the next day I'll have it and it'll be good. And it is. So.
Yeah.
So just to quickly mention something, like, because you've obviously had a lot of injuries, a decent amount of injuries in your career so far, like you've been piloting for a long period of time. And like you mentioned, when you meet junior or newer lifters in the gym and they're having a bad bench day or whatnot, you can basically just tell them it can be a lot more worse than it currently is. So you're perfectly fine. I just thought it'd be interesting to see how that also affects, you know, newer lifters when they get into powerlifting. A few of them will have minor flare-ups, and they think they're completely injured, or they think they've broken their back or they've damaged the knee. Like how you coach yourself. So how do you relate? Because I think one thing there's always been a popular statement here in the UK for a while was junior lifters don't make it to the open. And a decent portion of that is because a few of them will get injuries that they think is career ending, and they're not willing to push past that. So how do you, as a coach, and also in terms of being a lifter yourself with your experience, nurture your junior lifters to deal with injuries if it becomes a situation? Obviously the ideal is to make sure they never actually get to that point, but if they ever do have an injury, how do you give them the confidence they need to know that this is only part of the process?
Right. You know, I don't want to be dismissive of them when they're saying like, oh, you know, this is a big deal or it hurts, or like, wow, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I could easily just be like, bro, like, don't stress it. You'll be fine. It's easy. Like, cool. Like, don't worry. And that is what I tend to feel like in my head. And so I have to be, okay, like, no, to them, this is a big deal. But I try to either explain kind of how, you know, I've overcome my things, or what it took for me to get to this point. And I think that helps a lot of people because, right, they don't know what they don't know, right? Like, they don't know that, you know, where you kind of have your knee bother you and it feels like a 10 out of 10 pain. Like in a couple of days, it could be, you know, back to normal. Like it could be manageable, you know, in a week. And it really is just a very tiny blip on the road, right? Like it's so minor, but they kind of do have to know this for themselves. They have to go through it. And that's part of it, right? Like I've had so many times where, like, either in technique or in how I did my training, where people were like, oh, this is not how you do it. And, you know, I disagreed and I wanted to do it my way. And, you know, they were probably right at that point, but you don't really get to know that until you go through it yourself. And that is part of what it means to be like a top level lifter, right? Like you have all these experiences, you've had like bad preps where things just did not go well at all. And somehow you have to be confident for meet day and just show up and do it. And sometimes even though it was like awful, it can be amazing on meet day. And you have to have that confidence within yourself, but that's always something that's done by experience.
I mean, going again, right? I know, Chance, this is probably a topic in terms of, like, I know we've been talking about injuries. There is a lot of people on social media nowadays, especially young people that follow some of you guys, top lifters, like the Norris, the Russ, you know, the Taylor Howard and all of that. What's your take on people doing what you guys do, basically what they see on the social media? For instance, like, I know people, especially with Sean. I mean, Sean is a very big character on social media. Everything Sean does, the way he deadlifts, people follow it. Nowadays, start wearing glasses, and I've seen people start wearing glasses as well, right? So literally, I just mentioned this yesterday to Joey. I said, so literally, like, they have that influence. Probably he might not know this, but he has that influence on younger people.
It's like
these
trends.
It's like a trend is creating, even like the Russ and all of that. So my question to you is, number one, what's your take on it? And number two, what these people like yourself, Sean, and Russ should be aware of, or whenever you do such things like that, in terms of like people be following you. So what's your take on that?
I think it's normal for that to happen, right? Monkey see, monkey do. They see a successful lifter and they want to be a successful lifter, so they're going to do what the successful lifter does, right? Like, I think that's normal. And I think as time goes on, the successful lifters get better at showcasing like what we should be leading and what example we should be setting. I have no problem with it. I think it's like in context, right? Where, you know, I see like Bob Matthews, you know, SBD session at the end of the week, and this is my total for this week. that's a very common thing where people are doing the weekly total and like, oh, this weekly total was better than this weekly total. It's like that's cool. Like, and it's probably not bad, right? So like, there's no reason to hate on people that are doing that are trying to, say like, oh, this is my weekly total and this is what it's pushed. It's all into context. And I think over time, they'll learn kind of what is like really the biggest factors for success. For me, I've gotten better at being like in the public eye and showing like, hey, this is what we should be doing. And this is what some things that are effective and using, and not just like spewing whatever else and letting people just kind of take whatever I do and do it. I think people will learn eventually on their own.
Yep. All right. So I'm just going to break up real quick. I know we've reached the 90-minute mark.
You're good, man. I'm good.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I just want to open up if Ishak and Mo have any more questions on other topics, even.
It's not necessarily another topic, because I was just going to follow up the conversation we were having about junior lifters seeing what people are doing on social media and just copying straight away. For example, Bob Matthews' weekly SPD days. Like for myself, again, I don't coach, but me looking at lifters in general, and there are quite a few junior lifters in my gym, a lot more junior lifters are doing SPD sessions. Some are even prioritizing it, and in terms of they're just putting all the focus on work into squat and bench alone as junior beginning starting lifters, and then kind of forgetting about accessory work. You as a lifter, you're very popular on your social media, which I respect. You show the accessory work you do, and even have your secret or hidden exercises. They help your movement, which we want to know later on for the one you're doing currently, if you're going to share with us. But what are your thoughts? Because I don't know how to approach this conversation. But for example, I met a kid in my gym, spent 3 hours in an SPD session, first in powerlifting, no accessories left. Is that a good utilization of his time to really improve his strength going forward in the future? Or would you rather see more junior lifters, rather than focus on the whole SPD session and focusing so much on the squat, bench, and deadlift, actually put some good amount of work into accessory work and build that muscle mass for long-term progress? What do you think on that whole situation?
The short answer here is, when you're early on in training, you need a bigger base. You need all the bodybuilding movements in. You need to be able to build muscle before you can actually maximize the muscle that you have, right? So like if you have this level of muscle, right, like you can have a output of 120% force production on that muscle. Obviously, if you don't have the muscle, it doesn't matter how like much neural adaptation to training you have to be strong with a specific movement. You just don't have the engine for it, right? Like period. So, I think it's a waste. I think it's a waste to focus so hard on the powerlifting specific movements that early on. But a lot of times people are very excited about powerlifting. They're really interested in doing it. They really want to learn how to do these movements. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I just think it's a little short-sighted for the long-term career. And it's often why we see, younger kids, like collegiate or university level kids, getting hurt, where, they're only benching 125 kilos and they're like struggling with their shoulders. They're struggling with pec strains and this shit. It's like back in the day, like I never bothered that. Like none of that stuff ever happened to me. Like I've never had any issues with the weird stuff like that. Not until I got to deeper in where you're having real issues. And I think that's into context here where we see this more often.
Yep, that's a good answer. Ishak, have you got any questions? You're the junior lifter. I'm guessing you're soaking all this knowledge up. So
yeah, of course. I had a question. This is regarding like your competitors themselves. I don't think you've expanded upon it, but I wanted to ask, because these guys, they like to shoot on you guys into a one-word answer. Who do you think out of your current competitors in the IPF who's the one guy that you think has the biggest chance of beating you next year?
Krastev.
What do you think the reason is for that?
I think I think this is a big thing that people should think about, is like when someone is maxed out in a specific lift, and they're not making progress like on that, then they only have a very, very limited like other two lifts, right, to be able to make progress on to get that much better on the total. If you're good at all three, shit, if you have one lift blow up, I mean, that's huge on your total. If you have two of the lifts blow up or three, it's really good to be well-rounded. Obviously, I'm not that well-rounded in terms of having the bench not quite there. I would love for that to come up. I'm working on it. But I'd only have like really a great way where I know my squat and deadlift are going to come up. I know if I push these, it's going to come up that much more. He has a lot of room on all three, I think, to make progress, right? Like I could see him squatting 320 something, right? If he did that and then benching 230 something, 340 deadlift, like that total is already over 9, I think. So I think in terms of who has the most potential to make that much progress, Krastev. I think Kaiko, if he's like very hungry and like very frustrated about, not winning, he's someone to watch because of the vengeance factor. He wants it, right? I don't know what they're doing now to like make progress and what they need to do. Because Joey has a very specific system on how he does things. And I don't know what they're going to do. The big thing is like what you see is people that are at the top, if they're not making progress or adding, kilos onto their lift going into these big meets. And like, obviously at Worlds, like that's the meet, like you have to make progress into that meet, period. This is it. This is everything.
Yeah.
For no whole year, you get to be crowned number one, right? Like if you're not making progress into that meet, what are you doing? Like, how are you going to make progress into the next one? Like, that's not a big priority, right? Like now it's such a big off season, all this kind of stuff. I know Gustav is very heavy. Like he says like he was like 98 kilos and he cuts a lot. Yeah, he's tall, man. Like he's like 4 inches taller than me or something.
Wow.
A bit more a chance, a bit more than that. But yeah.
I mean, sure, but I think in terms of who has the most potential to add a lot on their total, I think it's Krastev and me, but
expected. Is there any, apart from the 93, right? I mean, I know you're a 93 yourself, but I mean, some of us, we might be different, but is there a weight class that you look at in IPF that excites you? Like you look at it and think, what is it because of Joe Jordan?
It's Joe, it's Yuki, it's Penna, it's Eddie, bro, there's so many.
Eddie's left, bro.
He's a 74 now.
Yeah, is he though? Did he?
No, the 74. But if he's gone 74, that means he has lost his Sheffield spot, isn't it?
No, he has a spot, period.
Yeah, he has a spot.
Well, he'll come back as a 66. Oh.
No, he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have
Sheffield's
to,
gone in GL points. It's just he can't take the records at 66.
Oh, wow.
No.
No.
It's not, no, the scoring is based off your world record total.
World record total.
The world record total.
Oh.
It's like a percentage like multiplier thing. Yeah.
He has to come to Sheffield being a 66. If he doesn't want to come.
No, he could do 74, but his like points are going to be, or not points, but percentage multiplier is going to be trash.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's just the 66 that you're excited for to watch. That's it. Not the 105.
No. You just said. I mean, the one that stands out for sure is the 83. I mean, is the 66. 83, 105.
That's it. End there.
The weird thing is like there's a lot of people at 83 across the board in other weight classes. I mean, not other weight classes, other countries that either did or didn't show up to Worlds. And it's like, there's a lot of population there, right? I just don't know how it's going to be at Worlds. And then we like, look at the roster for the 83s, who all is here, blah, blah, blah. What can they do? I like that. I think 66s to me, because it's so close to home for me with the 60s, with Yuki, with Joe, and obviously knowing all the other 66s, Ushima. I really like Kyoto Ushima from Japan. He's very dope, good person. So I like seeing my friends that are in all these other groups. I'm going to say 105, 66, 83. Yeah.
Alice, you mentioned
he was thinking about that one.
Saying it just because of you, bro. Straight up, 83s are very, very cool to see. Because I was an 83.
Because the other thing with the 83, right? I think no offense to the rest of us, but no having Russ there, I think has taken that hit. He has taken that kind of like publicity away from the 83s. So it's still, especially when World happened, and at the same time, the USAPL was happening. So people were looking, oh, what's Sean, what's Angelo, what's Russ gonna do, what's Delaney's gonna do. But at the end of the day, America can only send one. That's why I'm not scared of the 83s in America. I know it is. I can only go against one or two. That's it. So that means I'm not worried about it. It does not mean that I'm stronger than them. I did not say that, guys. I did not say that. All I'm saying is I'm not scared of them because I'm only going against one or two.
Now that you're eating, though, things could change. You know, going from a 1,000 calorie to
trust me. I'm keeping it be safe. I'm keeping it be safe there. I hit 250 for 10. So Chance is looking at me thinking, "Oh, 250 for 10. Damn." Okay. I think again, I mean, I have so many questions in my head. Chance, before this, some of them are just like disappearing, you know, for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's your presence here. It brings me back to you guys in America, right? USAPL and PA. So this is USAPL. They come around and they were talking about world record. Me and Mo touched it when we spoke to Ryan and King of the Lift, but we did not really elaborate as much as we could. But I said certain things there. Some people came back to me. They were laughing at me, the quotes I used, but the reality is those quotes are real. So what's your take on it, on their world record, or having an international, having Australian USAPL, you know, the Congo USAPL, Zaire USAPL? What do you think about it?
It would be one thing if they were like, yes, we are USA Powerlifting, but we will use the IPF world records as like the placeholders. And then if our numbers are above those, then obviously we'll take that record. That would be cool. Like, but otherwise it's not a real world record, obviously. I mean, like otherwise there's no shot. Like you would have to include the IPF records, obviously just say like, this is like a asterisk next to this, but that is the world record standard. And then from then on, anybody that did it in a USA powerlifting meet, which is what their line of thinking. I'm not saying that that's right. I'm just saying that could be how they measure it. But yeah, it's not real world record. It's not, of course, like it's dumb.
So is it not real? Because to me and Mo, what we said is not real to us is because it's not being checked by a governing body, or that international governing body in terms of like the testing side. That's what we said, like it can't be real, because you need to have that international governing body that to test people to make sure everything is real. That's why our argument was. So when you say it's not real, so what's your argument behind it not being real?
I mean, the travel, being it like not at an international comp, like it needs to be at an international comp with international judges. That's the standard for the IPF, right? And that's why it's like so regarded as a real world record, because you're having, you know, judges from all these different countries, random other judge that, you know, doesn't know anything about you, does never know your social media or anything like that. They just come in, they're like, yes, this is a good lift. No. Then they have the jury there at a international comp. There's just so many levels and layers to this of why it's legitimate.
But you'll have the argument to say, if it's broken in Australia, in the USAPA Australia, that's an international competition because the American is traveling to Australia to do that. So that's
is there three different judges from three different countries?
Oh, good question.
That's the argument that I don't know about that.
Right. But yeah, I mean that's the IPF standard. Yeah.
I mean they haven't ironed out those details though, have they? Like they've
like because it's retarded.
Oh shit!
Not anything.
Because and they know this is the thing is like USAPL could be extremely successful if they didn't go into this like we're going to compete with IPF in terms of international. It's like, you know how stupid it sounds when you say USAPL Congo, right?
Exactly.
Thank you.
I mean,
I said it.
Yeah, of course.
One of the things I discussed to Durance with about it's kind of like the MLB, like they have the World Series, right? But literally all the teams involved are like on American soil, I believe, right?
Yeah, World Series, which is fine for but I don't think it's saying that this is the World International Championship for baseball, right? Like, yeah,
exactly.
It's still different.
There's still teams in Japan that's not even like competing.
And I think it's also another thing is like especially American sports, MLB specifically. There's so many of the players that are just from every different country. Like That is true.
Yeah. But even then, though, it's like having a World Cup, and then it's just
World Cup, just Americans, isn't it? Have the Texan, you have the New Yorkers thinking, oh yeah, we'll go our own World Cup. Oh,
that would have been cool. Is if at like a national meet we had like scoring for the specific state in USA powerlifting, if we would have had that, or like a state champion or national championships, but as a team and everybody's representing their specific state. Texas.
We have something similar to that here.
We got interdivisionals, isn't it? And four nations.
Four nations, yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been cool if we had that. But yeah, that's about as big as it's going to get for USAPL. If they were smart, they would stick to that, but they're not. So they're going to try to take the IPF somehow.
If they did do that though, the whole state versus state thing, which state would take it?
It's not even close, dude.
Texas.
Texas.
Yeah,
we all know that.
Maybe not now because of everybody in Texas is an IPF lifter.
I mean, Texas is like
Taylor Atwood and Delaney's from New York.
New York.
Sure, but me, Jesus, Enrique, Russell, Petrie, everybody else is actually like, I'm not saying that those are, but like all of the top people are Texas.
Even Ashton, isn't it?
Yeah. Angelo's in Texas now.
That's it.
Bob Matthews also in Texas too.
No, he's New York.
New York. Oh, his strength levels don't make any sense, man. Stressing me out.
He's like he's going up to 110 now.
Is he? Ask him.
Yeah.
If he ever crosses over, I hope he just goes 120.
It's a matter.
You're gonna eventually go there as well, man.
It's a matter of time before all the USAPL top lifters come to IPF. If they're smart. Yes.
Let's touch down on that a bit. I was talking to a few of my American friends, the one that like me, not the ones that don't like me, because a lot in America don't like me. So I was talking to a few of them. They mentioned about it's really hard for the USAPL lifters to switch over to IPF due to that ban of 1 year. Is anyone got any insight on it? Because I've never heard of that ban.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even go to a meet without like receiving a bit. Like, for context here, I think Heather went to a local meet to do some coaching, and people reported her, like anonymous reporting to IPF that she's here, she can't be here, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, like you can receive a ban easy from that. Once you are officially on the Powerlifting American national level, then that's where the bans start coming in. Everything is just by the book, right? Like we haven't seen it happen. We haven't seen it be enforced yet. Because I don't know of anybody that's like direct conflict there yet. Who knows? But it is that year. The problem is like, and I tell people this, like when this first happened, you could go to Powerlifting America immediately. And then if you decided, nah, it's okay, I don't really want to do this, then you go back to USAPL and you're fine, right? If you stick to USAPL and you really want to develop your pro status, you want to build these points for this series, if you go to Powerlifting America now, you are forfeiting all of that. And then you will receive the ban if you try to switch back. Another thing is like Russell, for example, who went to USVI, then was USAPL, went to USVI. Now he's back with USAPL. I don't even know if he can actually come back to an IPF affiliate.
For a whole year.
I mean, whatever. Or
well, yeah.
Yeah, without any ban for the switching.
Oh, right, yeah.
So do you guys know how, this is to you, Chance, do you know how long is that ban?
It's a year, yeah.
Well, Heather wasn't banned for a year, was she?
No one's banned yet, is what I'm saying. No.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm saying they're already having eyes at the local level for these people that are at the top in Powerlifting America, that if you do it, you are going to get some sort of feedback, right? Like if I was publicly like lifting at a USAPL meet, yeah, it would be over, right? But
well, is it when you said turn up to a local meet, I mean, doing your coaching stuff, of course, but what about if you're turning up to just watch?
We have been warned not to do that, but I don't know.
Damn, that's so tricky, man, because like someone could just literally snitch and make
yeah, exactly. Right. Like, of course, there are going to be a lot of people just snitch because just to fuck with you. Yeah.
But they get nothing out of it, man. That's so weird.
No, but
That's
bro,
fucking
like,
weird, isn't it?
You
This
got
is-
chance
this is
banned.
the thing.
That's it.
whenever you have like anybody that has some sort of personality online or has any sort of opinion on anything, there's people that despise you for it, that will never talk to you, that will never mention that they hate you for this. And you just show up to a gym one day and they're in the corner and they hate you with everything in their being, and they just want you to fail. That's just how it is. Like, I know that for like me, for Sean, for anybody that has any sort of like opinion on anything, like people have their whatever stupid convictions against you, and yeah, they have no problem doing stuff like that, even if it doesn't get them anything. It's sad, but that's the world, man.
But that ban of 1 year, I mean, again, this is part of my conversation. We said that's what probably will stop the Petries, the Bob Matthew, the Ashton, the Ross coming back to IPF, because 1 year without them competing, especially those guys that go for prize money, because we're talking about, I know Ryan in King of the Lifts, they were talking about Sheffield, and we're all talking about Sheffield. I mean, every single IPF lifter are excited about Sheffield. And personally, I don't care about how Sheffield is going to run, whether it is a shit show or whatever. But the idea of having Sheffield on a yearly basis is encouraging, because every year they will improve. If this year they're shit, next year they will learn from it. They will improve every year. So this advertising around the IPF, because people are thinking, okay, but there's money now in Sheffield. There's £365,000, if I'm correct, right? That's more than I've ever heard in any powerlifting. So these guys coming, crossing over for a year, they're not going to come because they can't compete.
No, with that, I think because I know one person who's doing that. If you guys are familiar with Wasco, he's the 60 kg USAPL champion, because apparently that only applies if you are in IPF, then went USAPL and now trying to go back. So that's like someone like Russell. But the other guys who never went to IPF in the first place.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, is that the national, once you step on at the national level is when it happens. Yes. So until then, you can do whatever, right? That's the big thing. But I think what's even more pertinent here is with like the Petrie, the Bob, all these people that are developing the point system with the pro series, they get, obviously to the big pro meets where there's a higher payout. But Bob and, Petrie and Ashton and, a few of the other top pros, they've already developed the points and they have payout here, right? Like I think, Petrie's already made like 8K from the pro series. Ashton has like 16K. And they're still building that into this meet. The problem here is for example, say the US lifters, they go to Sheffield, right? Where I'm not competing head to head with whoever is at Powerlifting America, right? Because I'm going to be at Sheffield. They have to go, like Petrie would have to go against like Kaiko or whoever else is in the US, but he wouldn't even get to compete against me. So even if for example, he does that, and for whatever reason, he doesn't get the spot, and I get this spot, now you're fucked, and you didn't get, on the team at all. You lost out on the USAPL stuff, and you're out of the IPF. You're fucked. Like, that's a horrible loss when you're already making good money at this level. You're already number one. This is a big gamble. Yeah. People are like, oh, I'll just show up and it's like, you're taking a big commitment when there's like bans on the line. Like, to me, that's just the problem here, because like if you're the number one world champ, right? Like, or Taylor, right? And say he has a bad day or whatever at Sheffield or something, and some 74 comes up and hits this total, right? Like, everybody in the world is going to be like, no, Taylor needs that spot. He won worlds. He's the number one, period, over anything. Just because this specific total at this domestic meet was over this doesn't mean like he shouldn't go, right? Like, everybody's going to take the Sheffield lifter over that. Like, you should. Right. So it's such a gamble for any weight class if there's already another person at Sheffield.
So the bottom line here is like, for the sound of it, is that it's practically impossible for the switch to happen. So all these hype on the social media, this person is coming here. So more you can rest easy. Bob Matthew is not coming over. So you're fine.
He could, but there's so many incentives for him to not do that.
Yeah.
You're already established in this. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Even if the public is like chanting for it, you're taking a big gamble.
I think
So
the growth of payouts has to increase on either end in order for one person to actually be like, I'll
Probably,
stay
yeah.
or I'll go. Because even so, like the payout from Sheffield is big. If the chance, like you said, chance, like if the chances of them are low in terms of like replacing you or whoever won Worlds.
Yeah,
that's
it's good. It's
Yeah.
good for the 1%. If you're not the
Yeah.
1%, you are fucked. And
Exactly.
if you like, I barely, right? Like, I got lucky with Powerlifting America, right? Because I barely got on the team. And then I got on the team, and now I am that 1%, and now everything is good for me, right? But if I didn't make that team on Powerlifting America, I'm fucked, right? Like, I don't get to do any pro series. I don't get to do worlds. I don't get to do anything. Maybe I could have done the Arnold still, but realistically, I don't get the big stuff. Like, I'm fucked. And you don't want to gamble when you already have this income coming in from being the USAPL pro.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Again, talking about that team, that place that you got by luck, you know, it was very lucky. I think it was my prayers that gave you that place, because I told you about it. I'm going to pray for you. So how did you feel when you saw that list coming out? You were reserve and you were not in the first place. How did it make you feel?
I knew from the beginning. I knew from the meet. Like after I got second at the meet, I knew because of the criteria that they set, I wouldn't have an automatic spot. I would be an alternate, and that it would be dependent on someone else dropping out. So yeah, I knew from the beginning.
But did it prep you mentally, thinking, okay, if I get that spot, if someone drop out, I got that spot, if I go to World, I have to win to prove people I'm the best?
No. I didn't think, I've said it multiple times. I didn't think I would win Worlds.
Why not?
Because I'm going against somebody that wins every time. Like people expect me to be like, no, fuck everybody, I'm the shit. I'm like, dude, I've been through like shitty days. I've been in like really bad positions. I've been in like losing forever. Like, it would be weird for me to think that like, yeah, I am number one and I can beat everybody. Like, no.
I feel you, brother.
Do you feel as though mentally has it affected you at all now that you are number one and you are going to be for a whole like year, pretty much? Do you feel as though
I said this before, is that like when you're used to losing all the time and never being number one or being like the best, like you are always wanting to work, period.
Yeah.
And
you've achieved that now though.
And now like when I'm building this, like this is just who I am. Like people are like, oh, they're gonna, add to this total on this meet. And, like from Powerlifting American Nationals to Worlds, I showed up better, like period. And that's just me. Like every meet, that's how I am. It doesn't matter now that I'm number one. Like I'm gonna, I'm gonna work the exact same, if not more, than where I was before, where people are like, oh, if you're at the top, like you may take it easy, you may not be doing everything as much as you should. No, like for me, it's the exact same. And it doesn't feel as much pressure to me in my head as much as I thought it would, to be like, hey, you're the number one spot, you have to show up and do this. It just feels like this, and we'll wait to see, right? Like until the next big meet, it's head to head,
of course.
But I don't feel this overwhelming sense of urgency on anything. This is just like how I do things. I always do this. I always like hustle into a meet. I always bust my ass as much as I possibly can for the glimpse of potentially maybe beating somebody, right? Like it doesn't change.
I agree. Because from my own experience because again, as you mentioned there, because I've lost so many times, right? And even if I win, or even if I'm number one somewhere, I'm not afraid of losing. I'm not afraid of being second. I'm not afraid of being third. So that means when I'm going on that meet, it's me giving my best. If my best is not good enough for someone to put 20 kilo above my best, that's them. So it's kind of like me personally, I always say, I'm not afraid of losing a competition. I'm not afraid of being fifth or fourth, So because there's this mindset, people come in thinking, oh, I'm the top dog. It's a dog fight. I'm in the zone. I've never been in the zone. We were talking about race last time with Anna, when we had Anna on the podcast Chance. What's your take into the competition day, on the meet day, when people say, oh, I'm in the zone, don't talk to me, it's a dog fight, all of these stuff. So because me, I'm the type of person, even though, Joey knows me, even when I'm competing, I'm talking to people, even though I'm next to go and get my attempt, but I can still bust jokes. And I go there, as soon as I get on the platform, I say, Durant, this is your squat. That's it. That's a different Durant. But what's your take on that? But being on that game face.
It's like that tunnel vision, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like, there's those that are like, "No, don't talk to me."
So if there's one side of the spectrum and then there's Jurans on the other side of the spectrum, right? Like, I'm a little bit more in between, where like I am focused. I am like, I'm in my own world. I'm out to music. I'm doing everything, but I also can talk a little bit, and I'm not like it's me versus the world type of shit or anything. It's not quite that either.
Interesting. It's very interesting to get it from top lifters' perspective, because a lot of people, again, as I said, we have got young people following us on social media, especially when we step on that international platform. So what we do and what we say, these people absorb and adopt it in their careers. So I've seen a lot of people nowadays is like, or they put in, especially even a local meet in London. You turn up to a local meet in London, a young lifter will have a face like he's just about to kill someone. You know, and sometimes I tell people, relax, you're here to enjoy it. You know, you're not here to beat people or set records. If you can't enjoy it, there's no point of doing this sport. That's why when people get injured, you know, I mean, that's why when you see more coming on the platform, goes like, GB, where are you, with a big smile? It's because like, it doesn't matter. I always say this, if you can't lift the weight, do not load it. That's my concept. Right? I train in a garage. Joey knows this. If you come to my garage, if one day you get probably the privilege to come to my garage, if you ask me during to load 320, don't expect me to spot you. I'm not spotting you. You loaded it, you're squatting it.
Yeah.
Simple as that. So yeah, enjoy yourself. I always call people to enjoy themselves. Hey, guys, any other question there with you guys?
I think just one last one that everyone has on their mind is probably, what's your secret exercise? What's the new one that you've got? You know, we're trying to make those little 1% gains wherever we can. So
it's something very, very obscure, but it's not worth me saying. I've said this legit. Like, I've said this to Sean. I've said this to everybody. I'm not even going to say it until after this prep. And if it's legit, if it's worth it, I will say it, because otherwise it's going to sound fucking stupid.
Is it something to do with bench?
No, it's the lower body.
Isn't it?
Oh,
have you found one for bench yet?
You can actually say it, because we're not going to drop this after before Arnold.
Right.
You can say it.
You know one thing though that I am very interested to try, that I'm actually going to add now because our gym just got it, is a Nordic hamstring curl.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's like a good, you know what I'm talking about? It's you just kind of hang off and then come up. You kind of hold you can hold like a little pad, like a leg extension pad, and then you go down and then you pull yourself up with it.
I've never seen those before.
Yeah. It's good. I don't necessarily know how much better it is than like hyperextensions or glute ham raises or anything else. But it is something else that I'm going to try. But it's not necessarily like the movement that I'm talking about is a secret exercise. Number 2 is not hamstrings or glute, or not really glutes. No.
Right, is it bicep curls? Because that bicep vein is looking juicy.
He said lower body. But
it's lower body. Oh, my bad.
At the Arnold's Chance, if you have a shit there, I'm gonna laugh in your face. I would say that your exercise didn't work, so you better just tell us, and then so the world will know.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
He doesn't want to share that, is it?
No, it's gonna be good. The thing is, like, with the training that I have, as long as I'm healthy, like, I know what I can do, right? Like, it's, you know, so it would be fine.
If you lose, you're gonna buy anyone Nando's.
I mean, how much is second place? Is it still like, how much is second place at Arnold?
I think first place is $3,000. Second place is like 2,500, 2,000.
Yeah, something like that.
1.5.
Oh,
It's
is it
1.5.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god, that's a big gap.
Oh, that's a big gap.
Yeah.
It's third is $1,000, isn't it?
Yeah. So
I think it's so dumb. They should have just had like no bench or no equipped and just give it all the raw.
And
Like,
bench
come
is
on.
like 4K. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
Hey, they're trying to. It's just a big send off before the rule change, isn't it?
I mean, whatever. It's fine. I mean, the Sheffield money, as long as everything goes well, is going to be nice.
I think definitely after this year, like based of you pulling, if Anatoly pops up, if the ladies go head to head, Leah Bravois, Gara, seeing Giannomani, the pay rise will 100% shift completely to the Raw side. I think just because they've only seen the equipped bench last year, they think that's the most hyped thing they've seen so far, because it's not run by powerlifters, it's strong men, Eddie Hall and them lot, they're doing it. So next year will definitely be another completely new payout setup, which should be fun. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Sheffield, that's 50 grand right there, Chance. You have to work hard for that.
That's 50 grand for first. That's beating Taylor. So second place is still like 20 something.
Yeah.
Just fucking
but
great.
every world record you break is 5 grand.
You get 6 grand on each specific lift. Yeah.
Oh my God, I thought it was 5.
No, I think you're talking in terms of dollars, right? Chance.
I'm talking about £5,000.
Oh yeah, then yes, it's $6,000, 5,000 pounds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
that's big pack.
My last question for Chance is that just pretty much what, obviously you're looking towards like Arnold's, and the next big one after that is what, Sheffield? Is there anything in between or after Sheffield? Obviously Worlds, but anything else in between that we might have not heard about?
No, in between is going to be like a little bit more bodybuilding stuff. Really focus on powerlifting, obviously. But no, I mean, I want to give myself a little bit of a break. I mean, since USAPL Raw Nationals in Florida in 2021, I mean, from then on, I did a meet very soon after that. Then I did, Powerlifting American Nationals. Then I did Worlds. Then I'm doing this. It's like, you need a little bit of a break. I always tell, the newer athletes or even intermediates, like, you got to compete at least twice a year, 3 times a year. I always recommend that. Even if it's not like a big priority meet for you, at least getting the practice in is so big. In just terms of like executing and going things as standard, like you have to have that practice. For me, there's a limit. I don't necessarily need five meets in a year.
I mean, if money's down, you're down.
If it's that free, yeah, maybe, but otherwise, no.
Oh yeah, cool.
This meet is not free. None of these meets are free.
Oh yeah, all right. I mean, it's long travels, and sometimes that's what people don't consider. Like when we step on the IPF platform, it's not just about, oh yeah, if I work hard, I will get there. Yeah, but behind that, there's finance that involved. Especially if you are sponsored, you're blessed, right? I mean, they can cover all of that. But there's people that are not sponsors. That we mentioned ML, so you have to forget every single cent yourself, and that's a lot of money sometimes. So right. Yeah, it's a blessing when we get things like Arnold coming in and the Sheffield stuff as well for top tier like yourself. So I'm sure that's a blessing. My last question, Chance, is Sheffield is coming. You're looking to go and get the package. Does it not worry you in terms of like you push the world record to a place where it can't be broken, and then you're going to make things harder for yourself going forward for Sheffield?
So that depends like on the handler situation at Sheffield and what the specifics are, because right, yeah, I don't want to do more than I need to, but I need to make sure that I don't, go to third, right, or go to, fourth if I was third. No, I mean, it's too soon to worry about that yet, right? Like I'm more worried about, like right now, Gustav and Krastev bumping up the world record total at Europeans than anything.
Yeah,
which sucks, because I'm like, maybe they really will do it. Maybe it's worth it for me to just like put it up to like 880 instead of like 878, and then just be like, okay, I'll eat that. But that means they're gonna have to do like 882 and a half, or whatever, 883 or whatever it is, and maybe they just miss, and that saves me. But 878 is like, maybe they probably can do that if it's a decent day. We'll see.
I bet Emil can do it. Emil can do it. I'm sure Emil will do it. He will do it. He will go for it. And I mean, you just want to work hard, isn't it, to break it, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
My very last one, and then I'll shut up and I'll leave the rest of the guy. There is spot for Sheffield for the lifters. I know we spoke about you essentially having Emil there, right? So what other lifters would you like to see at Sheffield? The fact, because a lot of people have been talking about Rivalries and Ray, potentially, right? Let's not go back into that debate because that will open the floor for the next 3 hours. So just give me the names of the other lifters you want to see.
I guess my first question for you, though, is this on who I just want to be there? Not really like who deserves the spot to place higher?
Who deserves the spot? A top tier lifter that deserves the spot to be at Sheffield.
Okay. The other world champs first. So that's like Penna, that's Kaiko. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how like Jesus and Ray, obviously. I don't know how another 70, I don't think another 74 will go. I don't think another 83. So like the 83s, depending on who like does what at all these other meets, like they may out total like Delaney, but Delaney has to get that spot. He's guaranteed that spot. They may be like, oh shit, like some junior does like, or someone does at Euros like 8:15, and they're like, fuck, let's just take him, I guess, because they can't really decide on another 83.
It's not going to happen, by the way. It's not going to happen, by the way. I'm just saying. No junior in the world would total 8:15. It does not exist. Maybe he's not born yet, but it doesn't exist.
If you look at the lineup, I think there are actually a few interesting 83 juniors.
Yeah, that's the lineup. When it comes to the competition, it's the same. I was thinking Chance would get 900, but he didn't get 900 in South Africa, is it? So, I mean, team will be there.
Good thing I didn't. We'll save that for Sheffield.
I was literally expecting 900, and to be honest, like you were tremendous. I was expecting 900. I thought if someone would hit 900 first, it would be you, but probably Sheffield. But yeah, talking about the other 83 you mentioned there, Tim will get a place because Tim is doing the Commonwealth.
Oh, so he may get that alternate.
Yeah.
He cannot fuck this up, dude. Like he has to get this, man.
So great. So basically, you mentioned there like when you say the other world champion, basically current and former world champions, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I say Penna because he's another 66, and it could be Kaiko as well. But again, if you do Kaiko, you have to do Krastev, and that means there's 4 93s when there's only there's no 120. There's no 120 plus already. There's 174. I mean, it's like maybe they decide to take 4, but then it's also kind of taking away from some other weight classes. So who knows what they're going to do?
Yeah. Thank you. That's my last one. Guys.
I'm done for questions as well. Ishak, Mo?
I've exhausted. I think last one I had was maybe, do you ever want to consider yourself being a 105 in the future? Is that a thing you've ever thought about or no?
I think I honestly can be a 93 for like another 4 years.
Jeez, Mo, you're safe.
I eat like fast food and like junk food and shit all the time. So it's not like I'm like hurting to make this weight class. And if anything, like I'm at the top, right? Like, what do I need to do? I need to pay for nutritionists to just plan out everything, fucking send me the meals. I just only eat this. Like, I'll do that before anything else, right? But as of now, I can definitely eat more dirty and still be right next to 93. So yeah, I'm staying at 93 for a while.
Where's your go-to fast food?
Chick-fil-A, Chipotle. Those are the main two. Yeah.
Next time when we're going Texas, we're staying at Chance's place, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Texas for food, bro. Like anything you want, man. The Texas is the fattest state in the U.S. So
I've actually been once when I was a child. Yeah.
We have barbecue. We have legit Mexican food. We have anything you want. That's the best.
Man, I'm gonna eat my way to 74s.
Ishak, your last question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask because you said within the next 4 years you don't see yourself ever going up. So this is more on a longevity question. How much longer do you see yourself powerlifting competitively?
Probably no shot am I going to be a 40-year-old lifter competing.
No?
So you're not going to be endurance?
I have no will to be 40 years old crushing my body still. At that point, I want to have more business stuff going on. I would love to coach and continue to do that, but not competing, not how hard I push myself. And I don't want to do that for another 15 years.
How old are you again, Chance?
I'm 27.
So probably another 10.
You're joking, right?
What do you mean?
You're 27 years old.
How old do you think I am?
I thought you were fossil. Oh, you've been around for a very long time. I thought like you tell me that you're 30.
No, 27, bro. I have been around for a long time though.
Jesus. So Mo, you see, you got time, Mo. You got more time.
Yeah, Mo, are you 25 or what?
Yeah, just 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel like a granddad. So let's end it there, Joey.
Yeah.
Let's end it there.
Oh, can I say one more thing? I fuck with all the British lifters and like your sense of humor, everything. I get it's right for me. But then like some of y'all, like the banter that you have is like great when you're actually friends with you and you're like friends with this person. But then if like some random like British lifter like just comes up and is like that level of banter with me and I don't fucking know you, it is so fucking weird. It's more weird and like intrusive than like us like in American just being like fucking with. It's like it's very strange.
That's how you feel when you talk to Brits. The one
when
that
I talk to who?
To British people that you don't know.
No, because not all the British are like that level of banter with someone they don't know. Only like socially inept people are, right? Like that they have that banter with you and you're like, I don't even know you, dude. What the fuck are you talking about?
So just to clarify, when you're saying banter though, what do you mean? Is it like, you know, when someone's been
a cheeky cunt, yeah.
Okay, like when okay.
I'm kind of hoping right now that I wasn't like that, boy.
No.
Okay, cool. Shit, I started sweating, boy.
You think like Chance is talking to you because Chance has met more, and you and Ishak thinking, oh my God, these are shot fire at us.
Yeah.
No, it's just like, especially if it's like lifting stuff, it's like there should be a level of respect that you give somebody before you like make that kind of like you know, I don't know you, bro. Like chill, like stuff like that. But I love the humor and I love how the dry humor and just all the banter, anyways, with people that I know.
Is this in relation to a podcast you were on?
No.
Okay.
But all I will say is, Chance, in Britain, there's a lot of people I know personally. They follow you on social media and they look what you do. They look at your journey and they want to replicate that, you know, especially the longevity and all of that. You have a fan base in Britain. I could say, I can easily be honest and say you're probably one of the most liked lifter in Britain compared to the rest. You know, apart from everyone wearing sunglasses and copying Nori, you know, the deadlift. Do you know what I mean? Because Nori's an angel in Britain. Right? Who doesn't like Sean? You know what I mean? And people, when it comes to Russ, he's a superstar in Britain. So yeah, so it is what it is. So you guys, that's what I mentioned in the beginning. I was saying top tier lifters, everything we do on social media, everything we say, we need to be careful because we have got population behind us, following us and want to be like us. And you notice that in Birmingham, people who approach you want to talk to you because I know you're approachable anyway. So yeah, Chance, do you have any sponsor to thank or anyone? Of course, thank you. I mean, you're welcome already by saying thank you to Jordan, but anyone else?
Thank you guys for having me. Obviously, I enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you, bro. Honestly,
it was a long one, but I did enjoy it, and I like doing podcasts. So yeah, absolutely. Can I shout out my sponsors now?
Yeah, go for it, bro.
Okay. So Notorious Lifts. Shout out to you guys. Been great to me. Stoic, LiftNet, obviously. We got a lot of stuff coming in with Stoic. A lot of equipment stuff that is IPF approved. So that's going to be very good. Like stuff that you're going to want. I mean, I know we're talking to SBD guys, but you know, for everybody else.
Are you going to bring some to the UK when you come?
I will for sure bringing something. I don't know if it's for me to sell. I can figure that out though. But yeah, I'm going to bring shirts and stuff for people too, and for there. So Stoic, Virus, obviously the team, Nori, and my lifters, everybody else that is following the journey. I can't wait to meet everybody in London, in Birmingham. But yeah, I think that's it for me.
Cool. Well, Chance, I thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on. I know, like you said, it was a long one, but I believe every minute was worth it. Had a few laughs in, hopefully that you enjoyed. But yeah, again, thank you so much. And I appreciate Ishak here and Majid collaborating with us to have a bit more fruitful talk with you. And I guess thank you to Durance for, bringing you in and everything.
Yeah. When do you guys post this?
I'm just like the editing guy. So yeah.
So he's gonna do it. Let's see if he can do it on time. You're probably gonna see it next week or the week after.
Oh, you take a week? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we take a week.
It's not because it's like a week to edit. It's because we've had so many people's that's yet to be uploaded.
Oh, nice. Gotcha.
Yeah. And like optimally just before, anytime before Arnold's itself.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
So it's a timeline we're following. It's a story. We're trying to tell a story, not just what other podcasts do. You just get a random guy, you get a chance and you get this person, and no, we're just trying to tell a story across. Yeah. So yeah, we want the story to be told nicely.
Yeah, bro. But don't worry, we'll hit you up immediately when it's about to go up with the snippet.
Because I'm doing other podcasts and then I have my own. I want to like spread out the content. So whenever you guys do it, cool. I'll make sure I don't do it at the same time. It's kind of what I'm saying.
And as well as you want to do it chronologically, innit? You don't want to mention stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
All right. Thanks, mate. See you in Birmingham, mate.
Yeah.
Yes.
See you soon, bro.